welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Amish, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Steve, On the Level, Thomas van der Zander, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, No Smart Comments, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twadwazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Dalwest Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links to Patreon are below this video. With that, I'll hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Place, I guess, and
No, I think he was talking about he's making history. This is going to be something to remember, you know, and going to make some changes right now. People are going to realize that there's a globe. I think he meant.
so like a colloquial historic. It's gonna be awesome, guys.
I'd be surprised if they get there. That's the one thing I'd be surprised for.
Why?
They actually have a tracking thing too, eh? You
You'd
could
be
actually
surprised
track
if they
where
got
everybody
there.
is.
That would surprise you if they
No, I'd
managed
be
to.
surprised if they get there. If they get past where they're right now. Like right now, they're like in one of the most southern part of South America. But if they actually get from there to Antarctica, I'd be surprised.
Really?
Well, yeah, I didn't think it was possible to really get there that easy. But if they do, it would surprise me. But right
Right.
now they got on their website, they got a tracker. If you just scroll down a little bit on the homepage, you could see where everybody is. McToon, and what's that guy's name? A couple of them are already at that last airport over there. Witsit and German, they're almost there.
There's some
Righteous, can you put that in
mention
a
of a last-minute TV producer that's going along with them. You hear about that?
Yeah, he hasn't even left London yet.
Isn't that
Yeah, I'm on it,
interesting?
buddy. I'll post it in Skype too. Give me a sec.
Can you put in the main text chat too, Righteous? That tracker, whatever you're talking about.
Oh, I put it on BB. I'll put it in main text chat in a sec. Let me just put it for Nathan. Yeah, you go right there, and that's the main page. You scroll down a little bit, and you can see where, well, not where everybody is, but everybody that's using the tracker. You can find out where they're all at. Yeah, I've been looking at it since yesterday, and going to bed. And yeah, it's a curious thing. I'll say that. But there it is. There's a tracker. I also see McToon's live stream and Witsit live stream before he left. McToon's live stream was when he got at that airport in South America with what's his name, Will Duffy. They were both on the phone for a bit.
What are they doing to confirm where they are? Like, how are they establishing their position?
Well, I'm guessing like their phone, and that's what I'm assuming, right?
Cartesian coordinates.
Oh, you're talking about that? Well, yeah, probably.
Not probably, definitely.
Definitely, all right. Well, everything is Cartesian coordinate. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, endless.
Only,
There are
any
endless
of them
things we
gonna-
can point out that require them utilize a flat plane. That's correct. Kudos.
Are any of them going to establish their position using celestial navigation just to confirm their exact location?
What, use flat Earth elevation angles to the stars to verify their positional information? I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe they will.
Be fun. They're not going to rely on a compass, are they?
What? Something that will tell them the direction with respect to a plane also?
Apparently the compasses don't work so well as you get into extreme areas.
Just before I got up, I actually had a dream I was there and I was observing the sun, and they even had like a go-kart place. We were all go-karting, and Jaren was a bit disgruntled. Oh yeah, I come here for the go-kart and then go home. But yeah, actually, we were all observing the sun and the dream that I had. It went just below the horizon and then it came back up again. So that's what I seen in the dream.
If that's what you're dreaming about, fair enough, I guess.
Well, I don't know. It was something I thought I'd share with you guys, make some conversation.
I've said it before, but I expect them to see a 24-hour sun if it's possible, if they're far enough
Well,
south.
it doesn't surprise me if they would see it, only because if you're really down there low enough in Southern America, you can see it up to 17 hours according to time and date.
Yep.
Right? And there's a lot of people that live pretty down south, right?
Yeah,
So
I'm
it'd be
40
easy.
degrees south, and our longest days are about 15 hours.
There you go. So it just if you follow that, you know what I mean, that logic,
Yeah.
you know,
I don't
further
see any
down.
reason for that pattern to break down, but we'll see. Or not, as the case may be.
But for me, it doesn't bother me because I haven't been an AE map kind of guy for like about 2, maybe more years now.
Yeah.
So for me,
same.
it doesn't bother me at all.
We'll rule out one reification of a so-called model based on flat Earth measurements, or another one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide which will be more entertaining.
Which
See it or
outcome?
not to.
Yeah.
Mm.
If seeing flat earthers lose their rag because there's a 24-hour sun observed, or seeing globe earthers lose their rag because there isn't. You're saying you don't know which is more amusing. I'd agree.
Yeah, the scale of it on the globe side is definitely bigger. But I'd kind of like to thin the herd of these so-called flat earthers.
Well, it will separate the wheat from the chaff. The wheat being people who know Earth is flat, from the chaff, the people who just believe it. So it will serve that purpose if they see a 24-hour sun.
So it's useful as far as that goes.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, I mean, mostly the people that give us grief, us specifically, are the chaff in that description there, right? They're flat earth believers that give us the most aggravation from our own side. And this is a case in point. If you understand how Earth is measured, you go, well, what difference would it make if you did see it? You go, well, none. It'd be interesting if it did. But only because, to my knowledge, we've only got footage of the one in the north. If there's claimed to be one in the south, a direction with respect to a plane, that would be interesting to see. But that's about it for me. It doesn't change anything. Now, for the flatty that goes, oh no, they saw a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Yeah? Now what? Oh, well, that must mean it's a globe. Why? Well, because if you assume that when you went south, a flat Earth direction, you actually arrived antipodal at the bottom of a ball you've already assumed you're on, and must have that observation to comport with that idea reified from flat Earth measurements, therefore it's a ball. You're not a true flatty then, are you? You don't understand how Earth is flat based on its measurements. Otherwise, you wouldn't be reifying this antipodal positioning assumption based on what the sun does. Silly.
One way or the other does have interesting implications about the boundaries of reality, which is what I'm most interested in.
Now I'm very lost. Why? How does it interfere with the bounds of reality? It just is what it
Well, it
is,
doesn't
right?
interfere, but it does have implications. Like, say, the AE map, to some degree, some aspects of it are confirmed by the absence of the observation. That's interesting. That makes me more curious about what's going on in Antarctica. The counter, if there is a 24-hour sun, it says some interesting things about how the boundaries of reality join together, as far as I can see.
And I don't see how that. If you're saying that not seeing it gives any validity to the azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric globe projection, then I'd say no. And again, if you say if it is observed, it would show somehow the bounds of reality. No, it would just show that there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. That would be literally what it showed, because that is what it's showing. If they see it, that's what it'll show.
You can use the position of the sun to navigate, right?
Yeah.
And so its zenith positions and how over time each of those zenith positions connect to each other. So if I move in this direction and the sun stays directly overhead and I keep on moving in this direction, it does to me say something about how reality works.
Well, yeah, it would show you where the GP or zenith, as you're describing it, of the sun is at given times. But that, again, is just as you've described it. Beyond that description of the reality that it shows, are you inferring that there's something more to it beyond what that would show?
Well, Antarctica would be an island. I could travel south from Tasmania and end up in Argentina.
Why would it show that?
Well, from where I am, in the middle of winter, the crux, the Southern Cross, the bottom part of it, just kisses the horizon when I'm looking due south. And according to the almanac, the zenith position of that star is roughly near is it called the Thursday Islands? Or the Sandwich Islands? There's a bunch of weird ones out
Okay,
there.
I'm with you so far.
So it's straight line, 54,000 nautical miles of flat baseline that travels south across Antarctica, leads me into an area quite close to South America.
Okay, if you say so.
Do you follow what
I follow
I'm
what
saying?
you're inferring.
Well, I mean, celestial navigation works.
Yeah.
And I can see where the stars are in relation to Sigma Octantis, which is claimed to be a south pole, so to speak. Like a ground position underneath that in a particular location.
Yeah, that you're going to struggle with.
Well, it has a GP, right?
What has a GP?
There's a constellation called Sigma Octantis, and it's roughly over top of what's claimed to be South Pole.
Yeah, a
In the same way that
constellation.
Polaris.
A constellation's going to have multiple GPs, right?
This one doesn't appear to, much the same way that Polaris doesn't.
But Polaris is something you can
Polaris.
physically put your sextant on, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. There is
Right, you can't do that in the south.
Well, there's a spot in the center of it's not used as a navigational star, but the principles apply.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I'm saying. Exactly.
Wait, what did you say? In the center? Where
There's a
center
spot in the
cen-
center of
center of what?
Sigma Octantis,
Okay, but the center of what?
much the same. Well, there is a
This- it-
position.
The rotational point,
trying
if
to
you
dis-
like. You could
So you
you can
so you're
describe it
claiming
as
there's a
the
rotational point in the south.
yeah. It's describing what could be described as the central point of rotation, but there's nothing there. But that's what he's describing, this gap, if you will,
If-
in the sky,
if
which would
If there
be.
happened to be a very bright star in that position, then yes, you
So
would
this is
work
that star
equivalently to
That's called
Polaris.
Sigma Octantis. That no astronomer can ever locate, but you can see it.
No, he's saying if there was a star there, that would represent the equivalent, right, Endless?
So
But there isn't.
what's the Big Dipper? What's the in the north? The one that goes around Polaris. Is it called the Dipper? Or...
Yeah, Big Dipper.
Right. So Southern Cross, the Crux, does a similar thing around
No, it doesn't.
that point.
Can you
I
prove
watch
that?
it.
Can
I
you
watch it. I've watched it. I've observed it over time. I've watched how
that it rotates
Southern
around the
Cross-
central point in the south.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it rotates as such, but
So what does it do then?
well, okay, in the middle of winter at midnight, Southern Cross just kisses the horizon, and 12 hours later, it's much higher in the sky. But if you were to draw an imaginary line between that,
So it's somewhere else.
move,
So you
Hold on,
move.
he's telling us, Mush. Hold on.
okay, we'll use the northern example, so Polaris and the Dipper. So there's the most.
Oh, man, stick with the south. Tell me what's going on in the south.
I'm trying to describe it to you. So, Big Dipper at its most lowest elevation, and then there's the Big Dipper at its highest elevation, and you can draw a line through it, and the center of that line is Polaris. You understand the thing I'm trying to describe?
I just want to know. Tell me what's going on in the south.
He is.
Don't
He's
correlate
trying,
it with
he's trying to
the-
describe
the
it to you
exact same
verbally.
thing.
He's just asking you to nod along if you would comprehend as he's
I
described
want
it
to
this
nod
way.
along. He's telling me this is what's going on in the north, and then he's going to tell me, that's exactly what's going on in the south.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Cool bullshit.
Well, I don't know. I don't see that as unreasonable. He's trying to compare it if you've not seen it. I mean, I've observed the stars in the south, and he's trying to describe them.
There's no central rotation point in the south. What he's trying to imply.
No, there is a
There's
point
no
that you could
star in-
describe as that.
There is
though.
no star in that position, but there is a point that the Southern Cross forms a pattern similar to the Big Dipper in the north. It does a similar thing. It's like a clock. Lowest elevation is 6 o'clock, highest elevation is 12, and the center point where you would put the arms of the clock pointing outwards is Polaris in the north, and is this empty patch of sky in the south. And that empty patch of sky is in the center of Sigma Octantis. I mean, if you use a telescope, there is a faint star that's very close to that point, but you couldn't use it as a navigational star.
But you
Just
could if there was
fire
a
up,
faint star there. You're saying you've observed a faint star there, you personally.
Well, according to Stellaris or whatever, you wouldn't be able to use it as a navigational star. Well, I mean, mostly because it's not in the almanac, but because it's too difficult to observe using a nautical sextant. It's quite faint. I mean, I haven't personally seen it. Apparently, it's there.
'cause it's
if you
not
have a
there.
good enough telescope.
Because it's not there.
Well, I mean, it's
Thank you, Nathan.
beside the point I'm making anyway.
I get that, but just because it's part of this discussion and will often come up, there isn't anything there.
It makes it hard to talk.
I get it. You're saying there's a central point, and if there was a star like Polaris there, that would be the point of centrality, or whatever you'd call it, the point about which the rest of them move as you observe them. Yeah? So as you're watching them, and you observe them the same as we do in terms of how they appear to you, right? They rise in the east, they set in the west. But in terms of how
I've
they
observed-
appear to move through the sky throughout the night, you could describe them as having a point about which they're rotating, if you want to describe them in that way. That point, equivalent to Polaris, what they call, is it Sigma Octantis? Am I saying it correctly?
I think that's it.
Yeah. But I'm
If
saying
all
there's
stars
nothing there.
rise in the east, If all stars from east to west, it can only be one central.
I mean, you do turn around, but they do
And what happens
go
when you
from
turn
east to
around?
west.
You
Well,
get
then
two.
your back is
You
to
get
it.
two rotational points. Is that what you're telling me?
That's the globe's claim in terms of their explanation for why the stars move, isn't it?
Endless. Are you a glober? Are you telling me there's southern rotational point on?
It's what I've observed.
No, you
I'm not a
haven't.
glober.
No, you haven't.
I mean,
I
I
don't
live
care
here.
where you are. I
I'm
don't
40
care where you
degrees
are.
south.
All stars, sun and the moon come from the east, go towards west,
Sure.
which
Yeah,
implies there can
that's
only
what
be one central point.
I mean, that's what they do here too.
Okay, so that means there can only be one central point of rotation.
No, it doesn't.
I mean,
Yes, it
no,
does.
it doesn't.
How?
No.
Have you been in the south?
If all stars,
if you fire up,
stars come from the east, where you
Hold on,
are.
just number one, keep calm, Mush. He's just asking you.
Okay.
Have you witnessed what the stars in the south do? Have you been south and watched the stars?
I don't have to be in the south to watch the stars. If stars in the south, even he's telling me come from the east and go west. How can there
Yes.
be a central point then
There
in
is.
the south?
There's no other way to describe it. He is describing it accurately, and I can affirm that having witnessed them myself. That is just how they appear.
He is, and it's called octans. You are right. The constellation Nathan is octans, and the star is octantis. Yes, you are right. You're right.
The
I mean,
star that no
I've
astronomer can ever locate. Sigma of
I've
Sun.
spent the last 4 years as a flat earther staring at them, thinking about it.
You're right, Mighty, but he's just explaining how the central point is there, but there's no star there. We agree.
All I'm saying is there cannot be a central point of rotation in the south.
Why not?
Told you why. Because if all stars, regardless of where you are, come from the east, go west, how can you have two central points of rotation?
When you're looking at the Big Dipper, and it goes from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, what direction is it going?
Bro, don't give me 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Looking at the North Pole star, I'm facing towards the north, right?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me how does that happen in the south? There's all stars
Over the
come from
course
the
of the
east and
night,
go west.
I mean, I'm just trying to describe this to you. Like, over the course of a night, like, say it was, say you're in Lapland, and it's midnight sun, so you get to see the stars do, like, you know, almost a full 24 hours of moving through the sky. Polaris is the center. Imagine it like a clock. The arms point to the higher elevation, that's 12 o'clock, pointing down to the lower elevation, which is further away, that's 6 o'clock. And so they go clockwise or anti-clockwise. At some point, they go from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and at another point, they go from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock.
Morning.
Good
Hello,
morning.
hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, good to have us. We're having some southern star observations explained to us in the pre-show, and it seems to be triggering a few flat earthers, the fact that there is this apparent seeming rotation as the stars move through the sky in the south. And I didn't know that this was going to be as triggering as it was, so although this wasn't my intended start to the show, I'm happy to find out from Mush why he's kind of in denial of what the stars actually do in the south.
I simply don't believe that there's southern point of rotation in the south. That's it. And the dude endless claims there is. So when you're in the south, looking towards the south, which part of the south are you looking?
So
What are you facing? You're facing dead south, away from the north, correct? How about people who are
Hold on,
completely opposite?
Mush. It's number one, just chill. Can't barrage him with 5 questions and keep talking.
I'm totally chill. I don't know why you're telling me to.
You've asked him 4 questions and you were proceeding to carry on talking after asking him several questions.
So I'm talking about lining yourself up. Say, there's an equivalence in Polaris. In the north, you would look at Polaris. In the south, you look at an area that's surrounded by a constellation called Sigma Octantis.
And where in the south? Which continent? Tell me where you are.
I'm in Tasmania, 40 degrees south.
Okay. Now, 180 degrees, completely opposite on the other side of the earth. People facing the south the other
No.
way.
Hold on.
Do they-
Why are
do
you
they see
making
that?
Hold on.
Side of the earth, no,
Stop.
flat.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Just
Why would you make
out,
this as a
horizontal?
Hold on, mush. Right, this is weird. Right, number one, you're triggered and under a misapprehension because he's stating these facts, which they are, that he's somehow a glober, and he's disclaimed to you he's a flatty. But now you've just put to him the antipodal assumption. I'm a bit
No,
confused.
not antipodal, dude. Just on a completely opposite side of the earth.
That's antipodal. That's what antipodal means.
Opposite doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm horizontally out, away.
Okay, horizontally on a completely opposite side, dude.
What do you mean opposite?
Travel towards the
Opposite
north,
what?
cross the North Pole, and go all the way on the other side. Not in antipodal, horizontally, and looking at the completely different south. 180 degrees away from you. Do you also see the Sigma Octantis? Is there also
180
southern point of
degrees.
rotation there?
What do you mean?
Let me explain. Endless. He's asking you. I can only describe it with the azimuthal equidistant projection. If you've got it in front of you, and let's say Oz is...
Oh, okay. But I mean, I don't believe that's what I live on, so...
I don't either, but I'm just trying to describe it. If you've got north as the centre and south as out, then what he's describing is what if you look 180 degrees from your position on the other side of that map, right? Am I correct in what I'm thinking?
Like if I was to look north, like I'm in Tasmania and I look north, what do I see? Is that the question?
No, he's asking if you're in a completely different position in the world, also looking south from what I've gleaned, unless I'm very much mistaken, Mush.
Oh, say if I was in South Africa, say, or Argentina.
Just on different latitude. And you're also looking south. Put yourself on different latitudes on the Earth, right?
You can't.
You're looking south. Are you going to see the southern point of rotation everywhere?
I mean, I've personally never been to Argentina or South Africa, but I suspect that, yes, if you're looking at Sigma Octantis, you are looking south.
Anybody who's regardless of latitude you are on Earth, if you're looking at the south, you're going to somehow magically see the Sigma Octantis?
Yes. If it's nighttime.
So everyone in the south and southern latitude is going to see Sigma Octantis.
There's nothing to see. This is ambiguous. You're getting into ambiguous language, but I appreciate what Endless is saying. He's saying, yes, I would suggest that what we map as being south would see this gap that is perceived to have the rest of the stars moving about them as they travel from east to west in his location. Now, he can't simultaneously put himself somewhere else to affirm that at the same time. This used to be a unreasonable standard that the globe has put to us in 2015. But I appreciate what your question is. Assuming that south is out, right? Mush?
Correct. Yeah.
Why,
So
why, though? We've only got one absolute direction. That's north. But that's it. Yeah?
Correct. Everything away from the north, the direct straight line is the south. Right? My question is like South America.
No. Hold on. Why?
If you're South America and in Japan, are you going to see the same southern?
He's answered you to the best of his ability, and I've been south of the equator several times. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't paying that much attention. I was just vaguely interested in what the sky looked like because I was a bit of a NASA fanboy, heliocentrist, whatever, when I was doing those things in the south. But it did what he's affirming and I can affirm, and yet it does do what you're bracing against. So now, based on that, I'm just going to expand on this now. Right, Endless is saying, I wouldn't be at all surprised if I saw a 24-hour sun. And I've gone, yeah, me neither. I mean, you might go, that's not entirely what I would expect to see based on the fact that there's limited information about it and there seems to be lots of edited videos pretending to be it. So if you actually just went down, caught it easy, then great. Because that hasn't been the case up until now, in spite of the North example of a 24-hour sun having abundance when it comes to footage. So, yeah, that would be surprising for that reason, but not because it affirms any models or maps or anything. It doesn't do any of those things.
Have you ever played around with what's it called, Stellarum?
Yep.
There's a website called Stellarum.
Yes.
Mighty? Oh, I mean, yeah, I assumed you had, but I don't know if Mighty Mosh has.
That's kind of not the segue I was hoping this would go to, Endless, though. My point is that there's an inference, a natural inference, if you're in the south and observe the stars, that you can logically extrapolate out a 24-hour sun. Correct, Endless?
Yes. Well, I've lived at multiple southern latitudes, and as you go further south, the longest day is longer. Further north you go until you get to the equator, and then it reverses. The longest day is shorter.
Right.
Until like you're on the equator, and then you have equal day, equal night.
Right, and in your summer, regardless of southern latitude, you're saying that, like in the north, as you get further down, or the summer gets, longer, you're seeing the sun arch around in a vector, and what seems like almost a section of a circle. So you think, well, if I went south, it's reasonable to assume that would continue its circuit, and you'd see all of it all at once over a 24-hour period. Correct, Endless? That's yeah.
That's my assumption.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an unreasonable logical extrapolation that as you travel south, that you might see that effect. Now, it's coincidental, as we discuss this, I'm talking to you, Mush, that there's an inference that if, when travelling south, you actually assume you're going to the bottom of a ball, then it'll tally with a flat Earth Genesis-based globe paradigm that has been reified, because that has a great big axis through a ball Earth we're definitely not standing on, but would also require there be a 24-hour sun for that paradigm to function at all. But it makes no difference to the discussion Endless and I are having about this as flat earthers. Do you follow? A Mush I'm talking to.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm just not down with this point of rotation.
Well, I sense your agitation, but it's unnecessary. I'm not saying don't be agitated. It's not necessary. I'm saying it isn't something that is in need of agitation on your part as a flat earther. This is something you can be content with and chill with. There's only so many people that should be concerned about the final experiment, which it isn't. And that's globe believers who have an absolute requirement to see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica to affirm their reified globe model, which it isn't either. Their paradigm relies upon seeing it. They must see it. Me? Oh, okay. If we see it, that's interesting. In the same way there was a time in history where people hadn't seen anything in the south, and then we started plotting it and charting it, with a flat earth, I might add. And then you go, oh, these stars do that. Very interesting, says the man who charts it and plots positional data with it. But up until the point they saw that, they didn't know what they were going to do, then they see it, then they know what they do. Well, if this is the case with the sun, and we have this information, all right, what do you know? It goes round in a circle down in Antarctica. No, it's not down anything. We're describing how we get there, how we've plotted it up until that point, every piece of land ever, with respect to a plane. Now, if the sun does something unusual, oh, really? That's fascinating. What's the sun? Oh, well, it's a heliocentric... No, it isn't. Until you can tell me what it is, it's interesting follies that it does. I mean, it's a giant ball of what seems like fire that comes and goes. It's like, I have no idea what it is. So if it does something that is unexpected, why would it be unexpected to have 24 hours in Antarctica? Tell me why that's unexpected. I don't know what it's going to do. I've never been to Antarctica. If you told me, oh, well, I have been and I saw it doing 24 hours, that's fascinating. Oh, or if you told me that you'd been down there, as I have been told by Robert Shortman, that he went down there and it didn't do that, I'd also say, how interesting. Because I don't know what the sun does down there. But I also don't know what the sun is. And neither does anybody else. So can anything be, quote unquote, unexpected about this thing that, this giant ball of seeming fire that comes daily? It's like, what?
Well, but Nathan, you can get a geographic position of the sun any time of the day, and we can know exactly where it is, which is not something you can do with these claimed stars that nobody can, right?
Yeah, because
Any
we
time of the
have.
day, we can get a GP of the sun and know exactly where it is.
Yeah, with
based on
respect to a
elevation.
plane, yes.
You can absolutely see octantis, like octans, like the constellation. There's 3 bright stars. Like it's very visible. You can see with the naked eye.
And
I mean, Mush was saying that no one's seen them, but I mean, I literally go
All
out
these
right now and look at
astronomers who
them.
claim it's impossible to locate the Sigma Octantis, but now you've seen it and you know that there's
I'm trying to.
point of
There's
rotation
the
around Earth.
constellation of
Meanwhile,
there's the
they can't be
constellation
used
of
for terrestrial
octans.
navigation or anything, right? And for the sun, we can get GPS any time of the day and know exactly where it is.
well, not where the sun is, just what piece of land it is plotted and charted to be above at a
right.
given time, based on the patterns
That's-
that the sun takes.
Right. I said GPS, of,
Yeah, but that's the
Anyway, we
ground
can-
positions where the sun is above.
which is what you can't do for claim stars. But yeah, we can move on. Maybe
No,
not.
I see where
There's
you're
a
going. You're
constellation
saying
called octans
you can't get
that you
octans
can see with
GP
your eyes.
if you can't see it. It doesn't have a ground position. It can't be above a position if you can't see it.
I mean, you can see octans though, which is the constellation.
So
Sure.
can you get a GP of those stars, please, so we know exactly what they're above? Please do that, and then we can continue this
Well,
conversation.
I guess
Well, they move.
if your point is, can I go that far
I'm not
south?
asking you to go. Just get the GPs
I mean,
of
can
these
you
stars. that
go to the
claim
GP of
exist.
Polaris? Are you allowed to go directly to the GP of Polaris? Are you allowed to do that?
No,
What?
not as far as
You
I'm
can get
aware.
a GP.
No,
of
you're
the
not.
stars. What are you
Let me
talking
just
about?
answer him because this is interesting. That would be fascinating to see that. I've not got any reference to that, and I've looked. I would say reasonably extensively, but to my knowledge, no. You're not going to get somebody who says, "Check it out. I am at the GP of Polaris," or to put it another way, just so people can picture exactly what we're talking about. Someone lying on their back, and as they look directly up, they see one star that simply doesn't move because they are below it. Now, I'm not saying that it does move if you're anywhere else, but with you perpendicular to it, lying on your back, looking up with it directly above your position, and all the other stars moving around with it at a actual central position, with a camera lying perfectly level, with the lens pointing up and capturing all the stars moving around it. Now, to me, it's like saying back when I was a glober, I'd love to have weather patterns from space so I can just see the real-time weather of the second law of thermodynamics violation gas pressure systems producing weather from space, Narnia. Right, that's what I wanted. And similarly, it'd be cool to have a picture from the GP of Polaris with a time-lapse of all stars moving around it. So for the same reasons, back in the day and more recently as a flat earther, it's something that I've looked for. Because you're like, well, who is actually at the GP? When does anybody actually arrive at the GP of Polaris? Well, I've asked plenty of people. I've asked around as well. Well, have you got that? Can you direct me to it? I must have asked at least 20 people throughout the years on debates. No one's got it, it would seem. So that's a bloody good question, just to bring it back to you, Endless.
I mean, what you can do with Polaris is you can move south and you'll see it lower towards the horizon. Well, with octans, I can move north and it lowers towards the horizon, but it roughly stays in the same spot.
Great. And you get the GPs. These.
Talking about a
Leave.
gap. You are, though. You're
Exactly.
talking about a gap moving, aren't you?
Octans is the constellation, which is made of 3 quite bright stars that I can see.
Sure.
In the center of this area.
So can you take a GPs of these stars? Can you take elevation angles of these stars so we can get GPs so we know exactly what they're
it's
above?
octans.
Yes.
I just linked you in the chat.
Like
I mean,
any
I
other
can go
size.
outside right now
Larry?
and I can give you a rough angular thing, but it's not going to be any more or less accurate than Stellarum. I mean, I can put my fist out and
So
I can
Stellarum
measure,
has the
10
GP
degrees,
point?
10 degrees, 10 degrees.
Yeah, they're moving.
Hmm?
So you need, like any other star that you're going to potentially use for navigation. I'm not sure if they're specifically navigation stars, but in principle, yes, you can just know their time and GP, which will change because they're moving, and utilize
they're
an
moving.
angle to them. Yes.
Constellation octans is moving, but there is a central point in the middle of octans that doesn't move in relation
You're saying
these stars.
you keep doing this. I'm sorry, Endless. You can't say.
I know. I'm just trying to describe this thing.
I
But, mean,
understand what you're
it's
trying to
literally-
describe, but it's just I've got to be fastidious when it comes to these words. You're saying there's an empty void that doesn't move. There's nothing there to not move. You know what I mean?
The ratio of the gap between stars that make up octans, it's a constant. Can I say it that way?
You can say it however you like, but when you infer that something that isn't there doesn't move, that's two double negatives that I have to point out, because you're saying this empty void of nothing that hasn't anything to reference, there's nothing there to point at, you can't see anything, that doesn't move. You're like, what doesn't move? Well, if I describe something around it moving, it's the gap in between them with nothing there to reference that doesn't move. Yeah, but there's nothing there to not move.
I mean, with a very bright telescope, if you zoom right in, there is I mean, Polaris does move a little bit, like it's what, 1.5?
No, there isn't.
Polaris moves a tiny amount, doesn't it? It's not a
I'm sorry,
it doesn't.
Did you say Polaris?
Yeah. Polaris isn't completely fixed either. There's I think it's, what, is it 0.75 degrees that it shifts over time? Like it's not perfectly still.
Polaris does not move.
Well, well,
yes, it does.
I believe that's the
Polaris
claim.
moves.
Yeah.
No, Polaris,
But
the whole point of Polaris is it's fixed, does not move.
It's not.
It's always in the same position, but it does move slightly. Degree of rotation is very slight.
it's
It's not
0.7.
noticeable with naked eye, but it does move.
Does it?
It's less than a degree.
Yeah, we talked about this like months ago, bro. Like,
What, like
told you the footage.
the
and
margin
everything.
of error of your equipment, perhaps. But no, Polaris doesn't move.
Did you ever zoom to
Well.
Polaris? Because I have, bro. I
Yeah,
remember
I've
showing
spent
you videos.
significant periods of time looking at the star Polaris through my telescope, and I'm just
Did you
going on
use
what I
time-lapse?
see. If you're saying it moves, and you can show me somebody who's actually shown and tracked its measurement, I'd look at it, but I'd be a bit dubious. I'm like, okay, well, I've spent a reasonable amount of time. Don't get me wrong, I'm no bleeding Polaris expert, but I've looked at it. My understanding and my observation, and generally what I know to be useful about it, is that it doesn't move. Now, you're saying it moves. I just roll my eyes. Now, you might provide me evidence that suggests that, but if you do, I'll have a look at it. Fine. I may stand corrected.
I think we went over this like months ago when Brian was first saying that it doesn't move. And I jumped in like I'm like it moves. Show you the footage, and a lot of people jumped in too. They're saying that anybody who has a P1000 and use time-lapse photography knows that Polaris moves. It's not even noticeable with naked eye, but when you zoom into it, you can tell that there's a degree of movement in there.
Nah.
Changes its position slightly. I'll show you. I'll put it in the sky.
Well, I'd be more inclined to believe the equipment is moving
What if it doesn't?
with a margin
like you
of
said,
error.
What if the marginal? Yeah. What if the degree of movement is not big enough for the equipment to notice it?
If there's
Know
no
what I mean?
movement, are you saying if there's a degree of movement that's not noticed, then there's no movement, is there?
That's not noticed by naked eye or the equipment. Noticed with
Then it's not moving. If you're saying if it's not noticed by the equipment or the naked eye, then you're describing it
With
not
more
moving.
precise,
Right,
more
but if you
precise
use the more
equipment, it's
precise
claimed to be.
equipment like P1000 time-lapse photography and stuff like that, you can see that it slightly moves. How hard is that to understand?
But the time lapse isn't as so. But you're introducing the potential for a margin of error to be accounted for how still the equipment will remain.
It's
So you're
claimed to
saying
be.
now the camera is moving if it shows that it's moving? Is that what you imply?
I can't give you any other explanation for something that I'm not observing and haven't encountered in terms of what I have perceived from this star we're describing now, Polaris. Right, as far as I am concerned, it doesn't move.
I mean, okay, would you agree that the globe claim is that it's about half a degree off, being perfectly central point of the northern star rotation? Because it's
No.
claimed to be at like 89 degrees point and 15 minutes.
But no need to bring the globe into this right now. Just strictly talking about whether Polaris moves. It does
Just one.
move.
Sorry, got to pay the bills.
Okay.
Shout out to Eddie Wayne. Thank you for the super chat. He says, looking forward to the show. Really appreciate the support. Thank you.
Okay. So if, for the sake of argument, Masha's agreeing that Polaris does slightly, ever so slightly, is not perfectly at the center of the claimed rotation, right? Well, there are very faint stars that are similar to that. Like if you load up Stellarum and zoom in to this apparent point of rotation, there is a very faint star there. I don't personally have a telescope that's good enough, but apparently there is a star that is roughly in that location.
Stellarum.
Yes.
Stellarium, right?
Sorry, Stellarium, sorry.
Yeah, you're saying that
Stellarium's
you
a
can
movie.
see that's just a piece of software, though. Who cares what's in Stellarium?
I know, but it's a celestial sphere model, or okay. So I can't confirm that there is in fact a very faint star in this location that all the other stars
It's
rotate
because
around.
there isn't.
Well, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. That's not really the point anyway. There is a void that Southern Cross rotates around.
Yeah, you can infer that.
In the same way that the Big Dipper rotates around the void that's very close to
Yeah, we can end
Polaris.
this, bro. That's just your claim. I personally don't believe it. Anybody who wants to believe it can.
I've watched it.
You have no support for your claim.
He's looking at it.
I
He
mean, I
looks
have
at it
some-
nightly. I don't know why you've got the objection to the bit that he can actually literally just, if he chose to, he could set up a tripod tonight and get this for you. He's in the south.
But why doesn't he do that? Because no
He
one has ever
could.
done
I've
that.
seen plenty of examples of people doing just that.
Have you ever looked up Southern Star Trail photos?
I've seen a lot of them that claim to be that from Globers who are
Claim to
trying to
be
prove
that.
globe with it.
Man, so you're skeptical about these southern observations?
Yes, to say the
Are you
least.
an AE mapper? Do you believe in
Nope,
lands
nope.
beyond the ice wall?
I'm none of
So
that shit.
what's the
Don't throw that on
issue
me.
with the?
I
don't
simply don't
understand
believe
the-
that there's southern point of rotation is explained why, but I think it's time to move on from this.
Now I'm intrigued why
No,
you
no.
object to it.
I simply said I don't believe it personally, dude. Like anybody's free to believe whatever they want.
But it's not.
They
It's not.
reject-
I don't
But it's
believe
not a
it. I
belief.
can literally see it.
Exactly. It's not a belief, Mush. He can literally watch it nightly.
He can watch the stars in a time lapse.
Yeah. Well, not in your time lapse. What I'm
And
saying is the way that. Speaking on your behalf, I'm sorry.
So what
Speaking
he's
on your
watching
behalf
is
in the
watching
third
stars
person.
go from east towards the
You
west.
might listen to you more than you will listen to me.
Yeah.
There's not
what-
like you said
you'll
everything you
observe
need to
that-
say, bro.
You know how you observe the stars over the course of an evening, Mush, here in the north? That's pretty much what they look like in the south. There's no other way I can describe it based on my experience having observed the stars in the south. They look pretty much the same as what they look like up in the north. They do, though. It's just they're different sets of stars. Other than that, in terms of what they do and how they look, they're doing this. I don't want to say the exact same thing. I'm careful with my own language. They're doing pretty much the same thing, aren't they? Endless.
Yeah, except in order to see it, you got to look south rather than north.
No, you haven't. You can look in any direction. You should look up at the sky.
Oh,
what are you talking about?
Well, that's specific part of the thing that we're describing. In order
I
to
took it in from all directions. I mean, I didn't feel privileged as I looked around above me. I've got to be honest. I just looked from any direction.
Well, I mean, in order to see Polaris, you have to look north, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's all I'm saying. In order to
No, fair enough. I'm being
see-
facetious.
in order for me to see the Southern Cross do what the Dipper does in the north, I have to look south.
Fair enough.
Anyway, that's partially why, well, that's kind of why I expect there to be a 24-hour sun in the south, and why there is implications, one way or the other, about the nature of reality that are very intriguing to me.
Hold on a second then.
on
Daz,
this
did you want to add
flat
something?
plane that we live
Daz,
atop.
did you want to add something, Daz? Daz. Daz.
Yo.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Sorry, Endless. Can you're at the bit that I'd find objectionable, so I want to hear it clearly, which is the implications you perceive might be reality based because of this. Feel free.
Okay. So, in the middle of winter, there would be a simultaneous observation you could make. When the Southern Cross just kisses the horizon, I'm looking south. It is directly in line with the central point of rotation, which would be claimed to be the south, looking south. And so 5,400 nautical miles horizontally in a straight line south, if someone could simultaneously look straight up and the Southern Cross will be at their zenith. And they could turn around and also look south, and they would be looking at me. And this point where you'd have the zenith would be is it the Thursday Islands or the Sandwich Islands? I forget. No, not Thursday. I think it's.
Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to add, when you do a time lapse, it gives you the illusion of full rotation. But as a matter of fact, if you observe any celestial bodies, you never see them do a full rotation. You see them do an arc. Even Polaris does a slight, tiny arc throughout the night.
In the
So you
middle
don't
of winter,
actually-
if you could actually be underneath, I think, shouldn't you be able to see a full? If you're in the land of the midnight sun,
shouldn't you
only
be able
see-
to? Is you inferring that this could be possible? Maybe, but showing it or having someone else having had them done it already, past tense, right? Give it me and I'll look at it.
but I mean the issue is that it gets daylight. That's the reason you can't do it. Is that
I don't perceive that to be the issue. I perceive the issue to be no one's done it. In terms of Polaris, who's done it? Who's put a camera flat on its back, lens pointing up below Polaris, and done a time lapse at night? No reason why that couldn't be done. It's just you find it.
Why do you have to be directly below it?
So
you can
we're
just
at
point the camera
GP.
towards.
So we're at the.
You'd need to be somewhere where you get 24 hours of darkness, so the stars are always out.
Oh, to see the
So
full
Lapland,
circle,
I
you mean?
suppose. Yeah. Has someone been to Lapland and done it? Surely someone has.
Santa Claus?
If it's possible.
Santa Claus got moved from the North Pole when I was growing up and being lied to about Santa to Lapland as I was a teenager. And simultaneously around that same sort of time, early 80s, what was shown to you on maps as being an area that looked a bit like land vanished off the maps.
Isn't Lapland northern Norway? Aren't they right into the Arctic Circle, so to speak?
Yeah. Lapland appears, but where they used to describe the North Pole, if you try and look up what they used to have and describe Santa as being there, is often just shown as a void now on maps.
Hmm.
And they say, oh, it's seasonal. Sometimes there's ice, sometimes there isn't. Yeah, like the whole place is just melting away and then reforming. There's a lot of nonsense about the North. Now, I don't know which bits of it are true and which bits aren't. You go back even further, and there's land masses there. Go back a bit further, there's a bleeding magnetic mountain called Maru there. You know, so you're like, okay, well, which of these
4 lakes breathing in and out.
Yeah, with like
rivers.
channels going into it. The stories that are told about going to these places and giants, all sorts of nonsense surrounding these areas, north and south.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. It's just another rabbit hole. But my point is that it seems like such a simplistic question. Well, who's at the GP of Polaris? Well, that's an interesting question to dig into now, isn't it? What's the north? Why does it seem to change on maps? And who's actually there? Like I've described it, a camera on its back at the GP of Polaris, just watching the stars go round and round.
You used to talk about the Northern Passage opening up and shipping becoming cheaper and easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't really
There's
talk
all
about that
sorts of
very much anymore.
anecdotal evidence that make the North and South anecdotally weird. Territorially weird when it comes to you looking at the charts and maps about them. Very interesting. Therefore, when someone goes there, doesn't matter who, it's intriguing to hear their stories. So when Robert Shortman said, I've been to Antarctica, I spent 18 months down there. Like, really? He's like, yeah, I'd spend 3 months acclimatizing. Oh, really? You want to come and have an interview? Tell me all about it. Fascinating subject. But as you're listening to him talking about it, you're asking him questions like you would. What did the sun do while you were down there? And so on and so forth. So, again, with this current Antarctic endeavour, you go, whatever they come back with, it will be intriguing. Now, obviously, for them, they're putting their reification of a globe model on the line for it. For me, it's inconsequential to the way Earth's charted and mapped and built upon. That would be flat.
Some true earthers are putting theirs on the line too.
What, because they're attached to the azimuthal map?
Indeed.
Well, that's their problem. They're the chaff that we were talking about in the pre-show. In the pre-show, just to fill the audience in, we were saying that there might be an adverse effect, depending on which way it goes, right? If you do see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, let's say that's the outcome, then what happens is there's a lot of flat Earth believers that have a meltdown and then just disappear from the fold, if you will. And I said, well, that's no bad thing. Or I didn't say, actually, it was endless. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's essentially separating the wheat from the chaff. There's those who know it's flat, and the whys and wherefores of why it is flat won't change regardless of this or any other particular seemingly contentious issue about observations of the twinkling lights. Like, no, that's not going to alter anything I know at all. Don't care. It might be interesting to look at it. I will pay attention when they've actually gathered up the data that they think is an experiment. Yeah, I'll have a look. It might be intriguing. That's if there is a 24-hour sun. Okay, so we separate the wheat from the chaff in the flat Earth camp. Those who believe and have azimuthal equidistant globe projection aspirations that are shattered. On the other hand, if it doesn't manifest, we see a load of probably just anti-flat earthers, because that's who this will be contained to. YouTube have got the ability algorithmically to contain such things, and it will be contained to the anti-flat earthers who will just brush it to one side like it never happened. But the consequences in reality at that point, if they don't observe a 24-hour sun, is that, well, your reified model of a globe fails, because it's dependent on that. That's a prerequisite. It must happen for you to reify this model, as you think it is, actually just a paradigm created mathematically based on flat Earth angle measurements to the same lights. But, like I say, they're dependent on their reification fallacy being sustained by observing that sun perform something that it may not. So that'll be interesting too. So it'll be interesting to see which harvest comes in, which is being chopped down by the combine harvester, and which chaff gets separated from which wheat, if you know what I mean. Paula in the chat says Nathan's losing it. Why? Because I'm talking about wheat and chaff and combine harvesters. I do like weddings. Has anybody seen my camel? Shout out to Bible you in the chat. We do actually have a video to cover today, as it's gone a bit silent. Seems like Endless has run out of replies.
Well, what else is there to say?
Nothing. That was the end of
Just
that
gotta
particular
wait.
discussion. Unless anybody in the panel's got anything to chat about when it comes to observing the lights in the sky.
Sure, I kind of have been thinking about it, but only in a speculative manner. So please forgive me unless you don't want me to speculate, I won't.
Do whatever you want.
Okay. The analemma, the formation that the sun makes in the sky throughout the year. I would say if there is a place that has a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, it's probably one location where the GP of the sun is turning around in the analemma.
No.
Sure, it's just purely speculative.
What is the analemma? Describe it to me.
It's kind of like that figure eight.
No,
Uh,
no, that's made up nonsense. That's superimposing the position of the sun if you take it at the same time of day, and then have a time lapse layered on each other throughout the year to form a seeming figure of eight once you've superimposed all those positions of the sun at a given time on top of one another throughout the year, correct? Then you get a figure of eight. Or what looks like a
True.
wibbly wobbly figure of eight, right? That's the analemma. Kepler that came up with this,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what does the sun do then? Does the sun do anything like a figure of eight, or does it just slightly move each day? And if you track it and layer them on top of each other, you get this, what you've called the analemma correctly. It doesn't mean anything. It's
Yeah.
like saying, it's equivalent to saying that the wandering stars, aka planets, move backwards. No, they don't. Where you track them with respect to the other stars is slightly further back in the pattern the following night. Does that mean that they're moving in a different trajectory or orbital? No. All it actually means is you watch them move with all the other lights, and then the next night, that one particular light is slightly further back in the pattern as it moves through the sky the following night. That's what it means. It does not mean that it's wandering, that it's processing. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, if you break down what they actually do, it's far, number one, less complicated than the extrapolations of geocentrism and heliocentrism when they try and ascribe the wandering stars their attributes in terms of their motion. It's like they only actually have one observed motion, and that's what you see them doing, not extrapolation into orbital motions and retrograde and things of that nature. No. These are all man-made conventions in mathematics to try and explain, which is pathetic, what they do when all we observe and do is as I've just described them. And the same applies with the analemma. No, what you're seeing is if it's winter, it's hugging the horizon, low to the horizon. So if you say the sun only goes up to this high above the horizon at a given time in winter at midday, well, you go, well, if you zip forward to the summer, it's much higher. And if you do all of them, you end up with a figure of eight. So what? So you're going to extrapolate out from this convention when you have the sun seeming to be in appearance all at once throughout the year. You're like, oh, these extrapolations lead us to believe that there's some complex magic at foot that needs deciphering in the patterns. It's like, okay, we're just following our human nature with pattern recognition. But these patterns aren't really there. There is no analemma. There is no retrograde motion. The planets don't move backwards. These are all nonsense extrapolations that we have come to believe are the case. Now, if you just stop, relinquish all of it and just stop and go, what do they do? Well, just go and bloody look at them. Not talking to you, Flatsy, I'm just talking in general.
No, actually, I think that what you're saying is absolutely correct. It's equivalent to what I was talking about, the time-lapse footage of the stars, how they appear to make a rotation, but they don't actually. You only see them ever, like, visually, as an observer, watch them arc in the sky. You don't see them actually rotate.
Okay, this is something I'm going to do, right? Because there's quite a lot of interest about sun-based and star-based potentially observations and what people's reified globe will do in the nighttime, or 24-hour sunbathing for penguins potentially if you reify globes, etc. So there's obviously a little bit more interest in this arena, in this subject at the moment. And there's something you can do for free. And throughout my lifetime, I have had this conversation, be it as a flat earther or as a globe believer, with many people who have not paid the slightest bit of attention to what is actually going on in the sky. Yeah? Now, there's a few, I'll give you a comedic example of this, right? So, watching the morning star, yeah? and keeping an eye on it till when the alleged time it vanishes is long gone. So I remember seeing Venus and going, I wonder how long it actually stays for. It says it sets at this time, but it's moving up in the sky. I wonder if I keep an eye on it, how long I can keep an eye on it for. This is me, I don't know how many years ago, 5 years ago maybe. It's probably long. It's probably 10 years ago. Anyway, I keep an eye on it. I think, no, it's supposed to have gone, but I can still see it. It's daytime and there it is. Clouds are coming, but I can see it. So I think, it's going to be obscured. I'm going to wander up the road and just keep an eye on it. So I did. So I wandered up the road and I watched this until it's quite high up in the sky. It's almost at my zenith. I'm watching it thinking, I can still see it. And the clouds are coming and obscuring it. And then they're breaking and I can still see it because I've kept my position until eventually, probably about, I don't know, 11:30 or something. Bearing in mind the set time was about 6 a.m. It disappears. And I'm like, oh. And I sort of look back down. I'm like, bloody hell, my neck is absolutely killing me because I've been staring at this thing for hours and hours and hours. But I'm in a public car park, right? And as I sort of crick my neck and look around me, there's all these faces around me just staring at me like I'm a complete nutter. Because as far as they're concerned, I'm just some random, quite tall. I'm fairly imposing. I'm a large guy. So you can't not notice me if I'm standing in the middle of a car park staring up at the sky. You know what I mean? Now, this is not... maybe people know me as the nutter in this area, but this is not an infrequent occurrence for me. It happens regularly. Like, I'll be staring at something in the sky, and when I stop, I'll be turning to the person next to me going, look at that, look at that. You know, when the moon's low on the horizon and massive or something, I'll point it out to the next man standing next to me. Most recent time was where I stopped a load of women in the street because I'd gone out and had a look at the Northern Lights. Right, we had Aurora Borealis here, and it was, for me, I don't know if it was because I'm colourblind, an absolutely spectacular experience. I'm not going to say life-altering, but it was something that was absolutely amazing. Another time where I'm out cricking my neck up to the sky and running up to people in the street going, look at that, it's amazing! Why aren't you looking? And they're looking at me going, you're a nutter. I'm like, no, but look up at the sky, look at what's happening right now. And people won't even literally tilt their head. Anyway, I'll get to the end of that story to say, on the whole, people don't look up at the sky. They've got absolutely no interest in it. Even when they're flat earthers, they haven't actually spent any significant time paying attention to what these lights actually do, including but not limited to the sun and moon. You go, well, what does it actually do? What do you observe it to do throughout the day? Have you ever watched the moon and followed it and just kept an eye on it? Because this is something I tell my daughters to do. What's it doing? What's the sun doing? Pay attention. How high is it? Where is it now? How hot is it because of where it is now? How long do we see the sun for? Is the moon up now? I'm always asking them so that they're paying attention and just taking in it. And occasionally they go, wow, isn't that beautiful? And it gives me goosebumps. You're like, yeah, you're finally getting it. There's something magical about it if you pay attention. Very few people do. Anyway, I'll get to my final point, the overarching point. If you've suddenly found yourself intrigued by, will we have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica? Good. For free, just go out and have a look at what they're doing. It's cold if you're in the north at the moment. Take a big thick coat and some gloves and a scarf and just spend a couple of hours paying attention to what they do. Now, when you go out and go, well, I can see them now, you're like, yeah, well, figure out a purpose, like looking at Polaris. Whether or not it moves was something we were discussing. You know, that I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying with a purpose, like my example, going out and watching the morning star and seeing whether or not it will actually disappear at the time the app says it will. Yeah? Things like that, giving yourself a purpose to watch them and get an idea of what they do. Maybe start with the moon. Just check out when it's actually coming up, when you can see it and what it's doing, because it's got a little bit more about it going on. So if you're not that inclined to look at the sky, take this as the opportunity to go, well, if you've got windows, there's a good chance you can see something like the moon out of them throughout the evening. Just keep an eye on it and watch what it does. Might sound simple and you might go, oh, it sounds silly. Well, until you do it, you can't really appreciate what I'm trying to get you to do. And in the moment, if you just go, well, I can see the moon, what now? Like, well, okay, you haven't really grasped the beauty of the sky and what it represents and the majesty therein, because you're just going, yeah, moon, what of it? Okay, fine, maybe this isn't for you. Anyway, I'm done. That was a very long rant. Hello, Craig.
Hello.
Oh man, we've been
That
going.
was a good rant.
We were going for 50 minutes just talking about stars, and we did actually have a response video to do from Answers in Genesis. Should we do a little bit of it anyway? I had spun through the first boring 7 minutes of it to see where I could find what seemed like a good place to start. So there won't be or at least I hope, won't be a great deal of fluff. We'll be straight into it. Yeah, let's just do it. Let's not procrastinate. As always, please let Answers in Genesis. That is, it's Danny's channel, isn't it? That's his. I'm not wrong in saying that, is it? Who's the channel owner of Answers in Genesis? Danny Faulkner, right? Nobody's answering me. I think this is actually owned by Danny Faulkner.
Yes.
I'm getting a yes. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Please let Danny Faulkner know. I didn't know if it was actually his channel or like he was just a guest host on it. And I know when people refer to Answers in Genesis, typically they're saying you've got Danny Faulkner's ear. But I don't know if they're completely one and the same thing. But it seems like that is the case. Danny works for Answers in Genesis. Yeah, I thought so, Paula. Thank you for saying that, because I knew I was right in having a suspicion. So he is not Answers in Genesis. He works for Answers in Genesis. Owner is AIG. Ken Harm. Perfect. I'm so glad Paula's here. Thank you, Paula. So please let Answers in Genesis know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed by the YouTube bots. Now, if you are in the live audience, as always, there's almost 200 people watching, 95 people watching currently. Don't just say, yeah, I will do that at some point in the never. Actually, do click on the link that's going by. You can see it in the picture on screen, right? Click on that link. I will still be doing this call to action by the time you've gone and done this, and let Answers in Genesis know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite, non-sweary, non-passive-aggressive comment that won't get removed by the bots or the channel owner, and alludes to the fact that we've covered their video. And hopefully, if Answers in Genesis was to do a response to me or us, if you know what I mean, they'd do the same and put a link to my video. Chance would be a fine thing. Nevertheless, you can only hope. Anyway, please let them know, sharing the YouTube algorithmic love. And I don't know if many flatties would like Answers in Genesis, but there might be some pain relief for some globe-believing Bible believers. Maybe they'll find something they like at Answers in Genesis. I don't know. I'm not a fan. I don't watch. But there we go. Go and check them out and leave them a message. Let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Without further ado, I think that has literally bought enough time for a few to actually pop along and leave a comment. I think we can go. Let's do it.
Be growing. Now, what made me come up with the final experiment was this. As a pastor, as a Bible-believing Christian, it appeared to me that the flat earth ideology was being marketed to Bible-believing Christians. And it seemed to me, based on my interactions, that a majority of flat earthers were Bible-believing Christians. And so I was like, wow, this is not the direction that we need to be headed in the body of Christ. And so I had the idea of coming up with an experiment that would settle this debate once and for all, so we could kind of nip it in the bud, so to speak.
Sadly, I mean, even at the Creation Museum at the Ark Encounter, me and Danny also experience that all the time. Lately, I have been more often than I would like to. I'll be speaking on creation versus evolution. I won't even talk about space or the shape of the Earth. And I got flat earthers coming up to me and asking me questions about the Rakia and the firmament and
they don't do that to me.
That's interesting. So these are terms that are used in the Bible to describe a roof, and obviously our stance regarding the gas pressure that we're all breathing is that you can't have that gas pressure without containment. It's an antecedent to the gas pressure we're breathing. You must have containment. And further to that, as I appreciate with Answers in Genesis and indeed Will Duffy's opinions and beliefs, there is a sky vacuum. Now, we have a law of nature known as the second law of thermodynamics that describes how gas fills space. Now, that description is a description of that which occurs always. Gas will always fill whatever volume it has available to it. Ergo, if the sky was an available volume, or to put it another way, a space, then the gas we are breathing would have filled that space and have never developed pressure for us to breathe. We'd all be dead. We'd have never developed gas pressure to breathe. It would come out of the ground in this heliocentric world of a ball in a sky vacuum, and the gas would just immediately dissipate to never return. 106 people watching, please share the show if you've not done so already.
That's you. And you wrote the whole book on it.
Yes. I think, though, the four-letter word NASA they introduce you as that, and that's all they need
In my
to hear.
experience,
That makes you the evil one.
I worked for NASA for many years before coming full-time with the ministry. I've sent spacecraft to Mars, Jupiter, asteroids, even the sun. I was part of a mission called Parker Solar Probe. So,
is this his answer to the question? I hate it when they get straight into the weeds when they've been asked a direct question. I get flat earthers asking me about Rakia. Okay, now I'm not going to profess to be some scholar or some devout Christian, right? When I say Rakia, what, like roof? That didn't take me long. Now this guy saying, yeah, I came to the fold, or whatever he just described his church or Christianity as being, and I came from NASA and NASA. Now, you just said flat earthers ask you about Rakia. What's Rakia? What's with the waffle? What's with the weeds? Why are we in the weeds? And what are the weeds? Let's have a look while they're on screen. My friend, if you're professing this to be like the sun or a planet, let's pretend that you are, then straight up second law of thermodynamics violation. If it's gas, then this would expand into whatever volume area of space that this spaceship is in? Definitely not. You know, the gas that we're all breathing would vacate into this area. And as for gas giants, planets, suns, stars, being gas that doesn't expand into the sky vacuum, in fact, it's condensing down, straight up second law of thermodynamics violations. In your cartoons that you haven't gone through the wardrobe to attend. Is it Narnia we're talking about here, or sky vacuums? Either way, he hasn't been through the wardrobe or to a sky vacuum. But he's talking all about his employment when being asked about Rakia. Isn't this a Christian show? Shouldn't you give your Christian audience just a straight-up answer to the question? What's Rakia? Roof. That's what I'm going to call it. Any advances on roof from somebody more Christian than I? Clearly not.
that's always the first thing they ask me is, how do we know satellites are real, the space station, the planets, and how do we know NASA isn't just lying to us about everything? Oh, especially the moon landing. It's always the moon landing, too.
Well, I've been doing this a bit longer. I learned of the Flat Earth movement in early 2016, and I was alarmed over the next 4 or 5 years how rapidly the movement was growing. But it abruptly slowed down at the beginning of 2020, several factors coming into there. But what alarms me is that the growth is continuing at a high rate among Christian circles.
So in my experience, and I know in Danny's experience, many, if not most, of these flat earthers, they use the Bible to support their flat earth views. And so how do you usually respond to those interpretations? And what does the Bible actually say about the shape of the earth?
There's something I like to tell people, which is this. There is a massive difference between talking about an historical event that happened in the past and talking about our present day reality.
It is different for you because your present day reality is based on a globe reification that has its genesis in flat earth measurements. Now you think that is, quote, your reality. It isn't. It's your reified reality that you think is different to what the Bible says. And presumably we're now going to get his justification for that change from what biblically is stated, presumably quite clear, and what he takes to be reality based on reification of a globe model that's been inferred to exist when there isn't such a beast. It's merely a paradigm mathematically based on, as I said already, flat earth measurements.
It's very difficult when you're talking about the past because we cannot travel to the past. Nobody was around. And so
Why is he talking about time travel? What? Aren't you just talking about what is and what's stated in the Bible? Very interesting.
we've got to use the tools and the resources we have to do our best.
We have to use the tools and resources after just describing time travel. What the hell? What a bullshitter. Very amusing. Yeah, tools. I mean, what's in my mind after that statement, Duffy, is that I need to get myself a DeLorean.
Best to understand what happened in the past. But the debate over the shape of the earth.
And what, other than historical documents or me acquiring a DeLorean, what tools were we referring to, Duffy? Do you need Mr. Energy or whatever it's called?
Earth is about our present reality, the world, the earth that we live on. And so if we live on a globe, which I believe we do, that
Because I toss what you believe. If we live on a globe is your automatic assumption that you live on a globe if you're about to make an example that assumes you live on a globe. Now you're going to justify your utilization of circular reasoning by suggesting that your belief has any weight in this subject. I don't give a toss what Will believes. Now, I can trump it. I know it's flat, that's how it's measured. Furthermore, Will's belief in a globe will be based on those measurements. So, does it matter what Will believes? And when we look into what he believes is globe, is based on flat Earth angle measurements to the stars. So does it matter that we've even got a globe? Who cares? You can't have a globe to be on, Duffy. But yeah, you tell us all about your beliefs like it matters.
that's an objective truth.
No, it isn't an objective truth. It's demonstrably factually incorrect when you look at the process you must use to reify your belief. And the process involves measurement of Earth. Earth's flat. That's how we measure it. Your globe depends on it.
This idea that the Bible teaches a flat earth is completely false.
Is that so? Right, let's hope he backs it so that all the Christians who are watching this show, according to you, that's basically all of them, because flat earthers are predominantly Christians, according to this statement that Duffy made earlier. So that's basically everyone is going to be wanting standards of evidence that are biblically based. Let's see if he gives them us.
The Bible is largely silent on the shape of the earth, and I believe.
So you're going to tell us what it isn't doing when it's largely silent on it. Okay? I mean, again, I don't profess to be like some outspoken Christian, far from it. But I can remember a fair few Christian quotes coming directly from the Bible that do infer its flatness. But you're saying it's silent. I'm pretty sure that makes him a liar, because he's been in this arena for at least 12 months. Therefore, given that he is a Christian, you can bet your bottom dollar there's been at least one Christian that's gone to him and given him a few quotes from the Bible. He's just a liar, isn't he? I mean, I don't know that for certain, because I haven't got the guy who's gone to him with a quote. And I'm just inferring that that should, by all logic, be the case. So I'm going to retract my statement that that proves he's a liar. It doesn't.
I believe that was intentional. I believe God created this incredible universe to amaze us and to strike our curiosity. And I think that he wants us to seek it out and to get excited about finding new things. And we've been doing that for millennia.
Yeah, and how does understanding the Earth's true shape really help us to?
Did we get an answer about Rakia? Did I miss it? This guy said he'd got Christians asking him about Rakia. Did that get answered? We got a segue into NASA. I got a bit bored, I'll be honest. Then we had Duffy babbling on about his beliefs in reified globes that are based in flat Earth measurements. Did we ever get to the point where he actually said Rakia, like the roof? Like a tent?
He said the Bible was mostly silent on the topic, didn't he?
Yeah, Duffy's saying it's silent, but the bit that preceded it was about Rakia, wasn't it? I mean, maybe I'm missing something. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's my attention span that's at fault here.
To understand and better appreciate just the amazing design of God's creation.
It's mind-blowing, right? The cumulative minds throughout all history have been working together to understand God's
What? What? Again, aren't we going by what it just says in the Bible? Do we not trust the Bible? And by we, I mean them. What's going on? Why are they talking about the cumulative knowledge of man? This almost seems sacrilegious as a Christian. I mean, again, I can't... It's awkward for me to say these things because I'm casting aspersions on people who are presumably very devout in their Christian faith. And far be it for me to cast aspersions on those more holy than I. But by the same token, this almost seems sacrilegious. You can give us a toss what your men tell you, Duffy. What about the word of God?
Nathan,
Yes.
they started out claiming that they're Bible-believing Christians. They are not Bible-believing Christians. We're talking about change over time, that things are different during than they are now. This is blasphemy. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. They're just trying to promote their globe.
It's appealing to men. So
Also gymnastics.
creation, both at the molecular level and then the celestial and astronomical level, and we're still learning. We're still just barely scratching the surface. And so the universe, the creation, I think, is one of the greatest testaments to God's existence and to his glory. It's just incredible what he's created, and it seems like we can spend our entire life trying to figure it out, and we still won't figure all of it out. And so I just love it.
I dare you to let me build.
And fair enough, but we have figured out certain aspects of it. Figured out as in what? Maths it? Figured it? Out with the numbers? Yeah, well, when it comes to the numbers and measurements, Earth's flat. That's how it's measured. But for the fact it's measured flat, we wouldn't have a globe for you guys to believe in.
In the world around us, the gravity, for instance, if gravity were any different from the way it operates.
What do you mean operates? There is no operation in pseudo-Riemannian geometry. It's a mathematics. Yeah, the pseudo-Riemannian fourth dimensional space-time bending. That's purely conceptual. What's he talking about?
All sorts of bad results would take.
No, that's a dude falling, right? That's not gravity. Is this Danny Faulkner? What are you babbling about? Are you 110 years out of date, sir? Mass attracting mass, that would be this dude falling to the mass of Earth in a 110-year out-of-date rhetoric from Newton. Why is this on screen? Is this demonstrating how ignorant Danny Faulkner is? Like, bent space-time has no physics. It's a mathematical bent fourth-dimensional space-time geometry, Danny. Not men falling in spacesuits. Just as we've got it on screen, though, it's just poking out the corner. This little black bit's a little bit confusing to me, Danny. Maybe I could put this question to you. I was under the impression, after you did a little radio appearance, that people just hadn't been approaching you for the right answers about certain questions that they think that they need to approach flat earthers about and just hadn't approached you. So I'm going to ask you a question right now, given that this is on screen when we're talking about your ignorance of 110-year out-of-date Newtonian mass-attracting mass, calling this dude falling gravity. How ignorant of Danny. Nevertheless, I'm going to ask him a little question. This dude you've got in this portrayal of your misunderstanding of pseudo-Riemannian geometry, he's got like a suit around him, right? Like his pack, and all of this seems like very airtight, right? Now, my understanding is that he's got this suit on so that the gas that the dude inside the suit needs to breathe won't vacate into the area around the suit. Like, he needs the suit to maintain pressure for him to have gas to be breathing. Now, my understanding is that numpties, Christian or otherwise, take the genesis of flat earth measurements and having their overlords turn it into a globe for them to reify into existence, with people like Kepler and Huygens from the Roman Catholic Church telling them that we have sphere Earths and orbital motion, are left with this delusional misapprehension that that would ultimately mean that the sky is a vacuum. Like 10 to the minus 17 Tor or something ludicrous. Now we can just see that little black bit poking out of this little corner here. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that we do have a black night sky, but I would never infer that that's an area of volume infinitely expanding and 10 to the minus 17 Tor. Because if it was, wouldn't the gas, like all of this high pressure gas below the man in a suit maintaining pressure, wouldn't all that gas immediately vacate into this black area, ever expanding and infinite at 10 to the minus 17 Tor? Or am I missing something in your delusional paradigm of a sphere Earth, created with flat Earth measurements, residing in a vacuum with high pressure, uncontained gas? So to conclude my question, why is it that this dude needs containment to be breathing, but the Earth stands in violation of the second law of thermodynamics with your numpty assumptions that this black area is actually a vacuum? Just asking for a friend, Danny Faulkner.
Place. And flat earthers don't even believe in gravity. They just throw that out. And
throw what out? Bent pseudo-Riemannian geometry? Like the conceptual space-time medium bending? Or the concept of mass attracting mass that was debunked 110 years ago? Which one is it that we, quote, don't believe in by stereotype, baseless assertion from Danny Faulkner? What a freaking outrage. Based on what was on screen, Danny, I'm going to say you don't even know what gravity is. Or if you do think you know what it is, what you think gravity is 110 years out of date and superseded by bent space-time geometry. Don't tell me what flat earthers fail to believe in. If it was demonstrable and real, we'd be able to measure it. We don't. It's a bent space-time geometry and has been for, it's not quite, but almost 110 years.
there's stuff about the shape of the Earth. There's stuff about eclipses, things like this.
As you just rattle off a few scattergun points. Eclipses, what about them? Stuff about the shape of the Earth. Shape seems like a category error when we measure the plane of the surface of Earth for useful things like navigation and building upon. So I don't know where you're getting the shape of the Earth nonsense from. Is that because of your belief in the reification of a sphere Earth derived from those flat Earth measurements? That's not a shape that we can ascribe to the ground there, Danny. The useful aspects that we actually measure are flat. It's not a shape, that's an aspect. Oh, my bad. He meant his delusional reification based on those flat Earth measurements of the ground and its aspect. That would be flat. Earth doesn't have a shape. That's stupid, Danny. Very, very stupid. What's this, by the way, Danny? This kind of looks like the celestial sphere. And all of the points on it are only produced by measuring their angles with respect to a flat plane. Now, after you've measured all of the points to create this celestial sphere, you can then, by Haversine conversion, produce a map that's sphere-shaped that wraps around the plane that you measured the angles off. Now, it is entirely surplus to requirements. Not even redundant, because it has no use. It's not actually a protractor, but that's how you could describe it. But in actuality, what you've got on your desk is proof of what I have stated with respect to the plane that is measured to produce his globe fantasy. All of the points on his celestial sphere are measured from a flat Earth. This on his desk only exists because Earth's measured flat.
That scream design to me, and I've written about this quite a bit in my writings, and yet this means nothing to flat earthers. They miss out on a lot by doing that.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
Telling your audience what we miss. Danny's missed a flat plane prerequisite in that celestial sphere he's got. It's only about 8 inches from his nose. Shout out to Unitox Femu. We only don't believe in conceptual facts. Conceptual facts, eh? I'm thinking no, Sasha, but thank you for the super chat.
Absolutely. There's so many design elements in the universe that point to God creating our universe in a very specific way. In Job, God speaks about two specific constellations, Pleiades and Orion. There is a reference by God to the gravitational attraction of the star.
What? Doesn't say anything about gravitational attraction. Can you bind the chains of Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? Right? Where are you getting orbital motion or gravity or sphere Earth from those words? Am I missing something?
Stars in Pleiades. That's a perfect example where flat earthers don't believe in gravity. They don't believe.
So, what, believe? No. I pride myself on trying to relinquish myself of those stupid beliefs like gravity, because there is no believing in a geometry that's described admirably by Einstein, because he invented this geometry, as pseudo-Riemannian. Pseudo, that's sham geometry. That is to say, not physical. There is no physical aspects to the pseudo-Riemannian geometry Einstein created that has a fourth dimension called space-time, which bends. Yeah, and that bending is gravity. You've even got an ascribed mathematical cause. The uneven distribution of mass causes the bending and warping of that fourth dimension called space-time. That's gravity. Yeah, there's no physics in it at all. Why would I need to believe in it? I can describe it admirably. It's maths. It's conceptual. What do you mean, belief? Is it because you've got Danny on your panel and he's got this stupid, out-of-date, 110-year-old idea that men falling shows gravity? Yeah, you've got ignorant people talking to you. That's the problem here.
Believe in space.
So
and they don't believe that these.
Good.
So the Bible's mostly silent on the topic, but it also proves gravity.
Yeah, when you take something that talks about chains and Orion and start talking about something that has nothing to do with chains or Orion and talk about gravity and how flat earthers don't believe in it. Yeah, I got that from that quote too. I mean, I read that quote and thought, this means flat earthers don't believe in pseudo-geometry.
Stars are what they actually are, and so there's ample opportunities being missed.
How profound. Stars are what they are, so therefore opportunities missed. And yet, me saying go out and have a look at them is about as useful as you going and having a look at the sun in Antarctica when it comes to your reification of your globe paradigm.
To proclaim the glory of God here.
Another important thing is that you have both globe earthers and flat earthers on your trip.
Got one right next to you, it seemed, because you've got this celestial sphere with a globe inside it. We've got a name for that this here. We call this the Globe Burger. What it actually has is a nice, juicy meat patty known as the flat plane used to measure the angles for the stars wrapped around the outside. Now, that's where you start, yeah, with a flat plane and angle measurements to stars. Now, in terms of what it actually represents, there's a plane of the sky and a plane of the ground, parallel with one another, and when you represent them in an orthographic manner, you can describe the perspective angles you achieve. That is to say, something that is over there appears on the horizon, something that is above you appears above your head, and something to the right of you appears over there. That can then get plotted with respect to the angles you would measure in that perspective view. And the end result of that perspective view, measured off a flat Earth, Danny, nice flat Earth model you got here, yeah, gives you the positions of the stars. Now, with that data, you can reverse engineer through something called Haversine conversion the points on the ground with respect to the plane you measured for the angles into points on a ball radius 3959. That's what this inside is. But it's completely surplus to requirements. You can't acquire any of the angles to the stars from the surface of this ball. All of the angles are represented from the plane that they originally came from to measure them, to create the ball inside. Ergo, when I keep saying the globe Earth relies on flat Earth angle measurements as its genesis, this is the example thereof. and it's right next to Danny. Inches from under his nose is the flat Earth he requires for his globe faith.
Are there
And
any
that's key
people going
because
down there
if
who
one side or
know
the other.
Sorry, go ahead. Was that endless?
Are there any people going on this trip that know the Earth is flat, or is it just true Earthers?
I heard you say go down the first time. Did you modify your language?
Sorry. going on a trip.
They do, though. They say they're going down to Antarctica, and albeit via super chats with a lot of frustration from Quantum Eraser in the assumption that Jaren was suggesting that Flatsoid should relinquish his position as a flat earther should they see a 24-hour sun. But
why?
Because if you assume you're going down there, that's what I'm saying. If you make the antipodal assumption with words like down, if I'm going down to Oz or down to Antarctica, then I'm assuming that I'm not travelling south with respect to a plane, but in fact south is moving antipodal from whence I started when arriving somewhere like Antarctica. Do you know what I mean? That's an antipodal assumption. So saying down is an automatic assumption that you're moving with respect to a ball.
The side went.
But your question was about whether or not there are any flat earthers going down there. Not to my knowledge. There are a couple of true earthers. That's ether believers to anybody else. We call them true earthers because that's what they call themselves.
Then you could have some charges of dishonesty, all that sort of stuff, but you'll be there together. And I think you'll be able to get some video, perhaps, of the reactions of like flat earthers along on the trip when they find out there really is.
Who would that be, Danny? Do you want to let us know which flat earthers are going down there?
It's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
At the beginning of this, my original plan was to hope to get one flat earther that would be willing to go to Antarctica. My plan to get them to agree to go was to pay for their trip.
And what are their names on each side?
On the flat earth side, we have Jaren Campanella. He runs a very popular flat earth YouTube channel called Jarenism.
And here's why I like the final experiment is because for me, if I went down there, if it's me down there, it is technically the final experiment as long as there's not cloud cover the whole time.
Called it. So that's a flat earther, is it?
Interesting.
He just said down there. Down there, Jaren. You were just punted as being a flat earther, yet you seem to have already bought into their bullshit by suggesting that you're going down to Antarctica. Do you not know what south is, Jaren? You never looked at a compass before. Do you want to explain this down nonsense to me? No, Jaren's a useful idiot or a shill. Let's just go with the less disfavourable one and say useful idiot. Because he's using this language of antipodal assumption, isn't he, there, Endless?
It's interesting, his choice of words.
Very interesting, his use of the word down.
Are we ruining his magic trick?
Am I ruining it?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know if his magic trick is to lead a lot of flat earthers off the proverbial cliff of antipodal assumption like a Pied Piper. Who knows?
We know, if you don't know, NASA makes clouds.
Austin Witsit, he runs a popular flat earth YouTube channel called Witsit Gets It.
We would expect to see it just like crepuscular and anti-crepuscular rays. When the sun's setting in the west, it'll look like it's in the east at the same time, and the rays will converge to a point, even though it's just based on perspective.
We have Lisbeth Acosta.
What the hell did that even mean? Okay.
What will you do if the sun stays up?
If the sun stays up for a full 24 hours, then it's definitely something that I'm going to have to reconsider because as of right now, the current model that is given, it doesn't account for that.
On the globe side, we have Dave McKeegan.
So I'm not nervous about what we'll see. It's more nerves as in pressure.
MC Toon.
Then what the hell does that even mean?
Invent different explanations for what might cause the sun to set for flat Earth.
Right, cause? Awesome. if it's causal, then we'll be doing an experiment. I mean, it's almost like this lines up beautifully. It's being called an experiment. So we've got cause that's being established, and it's an experiment. And what's the naturally occurring phenomena? Oh, we don't know if we'll see it or not, but we might. Okay. So once we've maybe or maybe not seen this 24-hour sun, that's a phenomena, and we're going to establish the cause of that. Or did everybody going there assume that they're going down there? Ergo, the cause is automatically assumed in the premise? It could just be me. Not going to do any experimentation then. It's just whether or not we have a phenomena. And if we do, we've already assumed we were on the bottom of a ball when we saw it. So that works out nicely, doesn't it? Be good if we could get someone like Jaren to do it alongside all the other globe believers that need this to happen. And what do you know? Jaren's going, quote, down there too.
None of them are based on science or empirical evidence.
Sorry, let me get it straight. This charlatan tune is talking about cause, suggesting that flat earthers don't have science, while the fraud Will Duffy punts his potential observation as an experiment. Oh, the hypocrisy. Wow. You charlatans and fraudsters. I hope you all go to hell. I hope you rot and burn for your deceit. Do you think if you steal this fella a little bit more, Toon, that'll make you good in the eyes of Jesus Christ? I saw you preaching your deceit and justification for rewording the Bible, Toon. I hope you burn.
It's just claims without evidence, but fine.
You'll claim there's an experiment going on if you see a phenomena that has no causal influence being varied and manipulated in a hypothesis to make it science. The very thing you suggest flat earthers don't have, as you steal the valor through experiment. Is it an experiment that you're doing there? I'm going to charge you with this, given that this is being touted in favour of a globe believer and his words of science, admittedly when decrying the flurfs, right, Toon? You're going to do an experiment and you're talking up causality. I'd like a hypothesis. I asked Will. Toon, he didn't give me an answer. He's a weasel and a fraud, but we've pointed that out to plenty of people already. Here's you talking about science. I'm going to need a hypothesis for this experiment you're toddling down to, so we can check whether or not your hypothesis pads out when you establish cause, Toon. No. You won't do any of those things, no. You know, that's why I'm smiling as I suggest. When judged, you be condemned to hell to burn, Toon, for your deceit.
Let's see if those claims actually pan out.
Another YouTuber named Critical Think.
Yes, we're going to Antarctica.
And then this is interesting. Candace Owens is sending her director, Mark Herman, with us to see what's going on.
How did Candace Owens fit into that scenario, and where did that come from?
Candace Owens had people contacting her.
To be fair, if I was Candace Owens, I would get on this too. Because aside from all of the goofy stuff, I'm extremely curious as to like what Antarctica looks like from, I guess, regular people's perspective. Because I've always thought everyone's talking about Antarctica. Everyone claims they love nature in Antarctica. Why don't I see any celebrities going there? Just like they go to Australia or anywhere else.
You've got the pecking order, haven't you? And at the moment, the lowest of the pecking order's going. So, you got movie celebrity. Well, above movies, you've probably got political celebrities, then movie celebrities, then TV celebrities, then porn stars, then YouTubers. Well, currently, it's, Mr. Beast at the top of the pile of the YouTubers went, and now we've got the people further down the list going.
Porn stars? Wow. Keep going.
Oh, you think that we're lower than that?
No. Oh, I mean, lower than porn stars? That's crazy.
I don't know what your objection is. Moving on.
About flat Earth, people contacting her about NASA having satanic origins and the moon landings being faked. And so I noticed that she was starting to talk about this on her show. And so I reached out and I encouraged her. I didn't know where she stood on the debate, but I just encouraged her, hey, if you're going to make a decision or you're considering which side of this debate, flat versus globe, to
It's not a debate, Will. You'd like it to be. Because then you could push all your pain and anxiety about you needing to see a 24-hour sun for the globe reification to pad out in your mind. Or, to put it another way, continue being reified. But there is no debate or sides to pick or affirmation based on a phenomena that you might observe when you're calling an experiment. That's because you're a fraud, by the way, Duffy. You, fraud. But in terms of Earth, it's measured flat. Now, don't get me wrong. Candice's concern for this is seemingly endless in the eyes of many men that like Candice Owens and concern themselves with what she's concerned herself with. Me, I'm not that concerned. What I know is Earth's measured flat. It's not a debate. I was under that misapprehension for quite some time. But it isn't a debate. Earth is measured flat. Without those flat Earth measurements, you wouldn't have a globe to believe in.
fall on, I am conducting something called the final experiment in December of 2024. And you may want to wait until we conduct the experiment because
It's not an experiment, Duffy. We've called you out as being a fraud. I asked you personally for the independent and dependent variables and hypothesis construction that would require it to have if you're going to call it an experiment. That would be a hypothesis actualization. It isn't. Now I'm calling out your compadre there, Toon, based on his decrying flat earthers for the lack of science when talking about cause. Oh, well, how convenient. You might see a phenomena in Antarctica. We'll find out when you see it. But obviously, Toon is all keen to do science. So, like where Duffy the fraud failed to offer me the hypothesis when I asked him after he commented under one of my videos, I responded to him having taken the time to proactively comment on one of my videos. I responded and asked him for the hypothesis. He didn't give it me. He went on to lie about communication we hadn't had for a ticket he hadn't got to offer, and then went on to promote how I turned down a ticket that didn't exist and he hadn't offered me on his website. The man is a fraud. But now Toon's going to obviously come up with his hypothesis construction for this so-called experiment we've already proven to be fraud on Will's front. Now just spread that love to Toon, who is also a fraud and should burn for his deceit.
experiment will be definitive evidence.
No, it won't. You're a liar. You're just a liar, Duffy. We've proven how it's fraud. It's nothing more than a potential observation of a phenomena, if you want to call it, with no hypothesis, no variation of causality, no independent variable, nothing that has any scientific validity. You're just stealing valor from an empirical method by calling it an experiment. You're a fraud. Now you're lying about what it'll offer in the face of us telling you, in no uncertain terms, how what you are doing is fraud.
Of the shape of the earth, and she loved it, and she can't go herself due to a
That's another lie. She loved it, or did she love the money you paid for a paid to be read out super chat? It seems someone she's associated with took an interest. That's her producer. She couldn't give a toss, but because you paid her, she read out a message you sent her, which, lucky for you, sparked interest in someone associated with her, but that's not her. This is just your lies about what you paid her to read.
scheduling conflict, but she's sending her director to be her boots on the ground in Antarctica.
Objections have you received from the flat earthers to this whole thing?
So a lot of objections from the flat earth side. Number one, their biggest objection is they don't like the name, the final experiment. They've tried to tell me that it's not an experiment. They've tried.
So you're well aware of your own fraud then? Okay. Well, all you'd need to do to satisfy the description is to give us the independent and dependent variable in the form of a hypothesis for you to actualize, because an experiment is the actualization of a hypothesis. It isn't an experiment, Duffy. Yeah, I'm one of the people who asked you. I didn't actually say to you that I had any objection. I just asked you for your independent and dependent variable, and you didn't give them me.
Tried to tell me that it's not final. Unfortunately for them,
liar. No, we've told you in no uncertain terms that it's not the final bit that is concerned unless you change the title to Final Expedition, because it then definitely isn't a final expedition, given that you've been called out on your fraud and then saw fit to change the name, because it's incorrect, to Expedition. When somebody objects to your fraud lies when it comes to this non-experiment, you've labelled your fraud. Meanwhile, it's the experiment bit, as you've titled it that, for the stolen valour of validity that if it was an experiment, you'd have, but it isn't. So no, it's not the final bit that I objected to when I asked you for your independent and dependent variable. That would be to say the hypothesis you would be actualising if it was an experiment. It isn't. You're a fraud.
They have propped up this experiment for years called the Bedford Level experiment. And if that was an experiment, then so is this.
Let me get it straight. If that man's okay to rob from the bank, then so am I. If that's just acquisition of funds as opposed to robbery, then this, me stealing from the safe, is just acquisition of funds and not theft. If they can do it, I can do it. If they can call a non-experiment an experiment, then so can I. Let me get it straight, Duffy. You're justifying your fraud based on the Bedford Level experiment also not being an experiment. Oh, right, okay. I'll just call that out then too. No, that's not an experiment either. It doesn't have an independent or dependent variable. There is no naturally occurring phenomena in the Bedford Level experiment, making it also falsely ascribed as an experiment. But you're saying if that is called an experiment, then so can yours be. No, because that's also false. The Bedford Level is not an experiment. So you're going to use someone else's fraudulent use of these terms to justify your own fraudulent use of these terms. Well, that's not very good. You can't lean on something that is not an experiment to justify your fraudulent use of these incorrect terms there, Duffy. And you're going to blame this fraud on flat earthers who hold up the Bedford Level. Oh, right. Well, unfortunately, I'm not holding up anything. I call foul on even the flat earthers when they ascribe this term. Yeah? We have very idiotic flat earthers on our own side who claim the Michelson-Morley experiment has somehow got some empiricism attached to it. Yeah, we call them out as frauds too, Duffy. No, we're not somehow discriminatory about our own side, using the words of empiricism fraudulently like you still are, and yet you justify it by saying others are also frauds. Wow. Let's just clear this up straight away, fraudster. It's not an experiment, and it doesn't matter how many other con artist, fraud, scam scumbags around you use these terms. It's still fraud because it's not an experiment that you're claiming funds to do. That just makes what you do fraud, Duffy. There's no amount of they do it too that's going to justify your fraud, man. I think I'll round out the live show on that note. Any comments? Don't be shy. Someone's got to have an opinion. No? Everybody all will Duffy it out after we did about a bazillion hours of it yesterday.
Well, I do want to say that Answers in Genesis is founded by Ken Ham, not like you said it was Danny.
Yes, Paula also commented that from the chat. Thank you, though. Yes, that's correct. He just works for Answers in Genesis. It's not his, which is why I knew in the back of my mind there was a reason to question that, rather than just saying, oh, yeah, this is definitely his. But yes, thank you. Any other comments? I'll do one more call to action.
None of this was surprising.
Go ahead.
It's just saying none of this was surprising. He's just repeating the same story. He's not correcting any of the things that have been pointed out to him. He's just soldiering on with his nonsense.
Nonsense it may be, but please let Answers in Genesis know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that won't immediately be eradicated by the YouTube bots or the channel operator. So just to allude to the fact that we have covered their video, and hopefully if they were to respond, they'd put a link to my video and help us in the YouTube algorithmic love that we are sending their way with commenters, likers, and all those good things that viewers in general bring with them. So in that regard, you are that person. You can toddle along to Answers in Genesis, help them in the YouTube algorithmic love by leaving them a comment and obviously a view when you do toddle along. There is a link to Answers in Genesis and this video, which is called This Will, is that a pun? Settle the flat earth debate once and for all. No, it will not. There is no debate. Earth is measured flat. This is just a way a fraudster, that's Will Duffy, is grifting money and raising funds for a spurious trip used to mask an antipodal assumption that he's got a few flat earthers to buy into alongside him. That's people like Jaron when they use the word down when describing a directional piece of information with respect to a plane south. Shout out to Phoenix Rising 86, who says I don't know what fruit that is. They'll fruit 100. I think it's a fruit or a flower, something like that. Also, shout out to Theo Megawerty, Danny, and Will, two bulverists in a pod. Bulverism, word of the week. Thank you very much, both of you, for the super chats. Really appreciate the support. Before I do, is there any other final comments on this before we do?
I don't think that was a fruit. I think he meant burn. They'll burn 100%.
Oh, it's flames. They'll burn 100. Oh, okay. Very fire and brimstone. Any more for any more?
Well, yeah, regarding like Candace Owens sent her producer down, like that kind of stinks because all she's heard was a couple Dave Weiss arguments, and now she's sending her Globey producer to go hang out with Jaron and McToon for a week. So I don't see that being very fruitful for her.
Maybe she'll get some interesting comments.
Yeah,
or he. I don't know if the producer's male or female, he or she.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure either.
Another shout out to The Fire from Phoenix Rising 86, who had a good word put in for him earlier this morning. Thank you for the super chats. Last call. Any more for any more? Sausage dog. Am I going to get this sausage dog on camera, hun? Do you want to give me this dog? We're dog sitting. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels. I'm going to grab this dog. Come here, Wolf. He's chasing away. My wife's going to give me a dog on camera. Huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. This is my sausage dog with dog sitting. Isn't he cute? Oh. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Pause my recording. Not entirely sure. My wife burst in just as I was about to do my outro. She burst in with the dog that we're dog sitting. Like, okay, fine. I'll have a dog on camera. Why not?
Now you're going to have to buy a dog once the dog goes back to his owners.
We can't. We live in an apartment. We can't have any pets here. So, you know, it's one thing dog sitting for somebody, another thing actually owning a pet here. But we can't have a pet here.
It's unfortunate I'm in the same position. And in 2020, I lost my dog that I had for 13 years. And it felt like I lost my best friend or closest family member. It was that hard on me. It was probably the worst day of my life by far.
Yeah, it's nice that we can at least expose both of our kids to a pet, even though it's not theirs. So it's not the first time this dog's been around, but they get to play with this dog reasonably frequently. And they see it around generally. So, it's kind of like their pet. It's nowhere near as good as actually having a dog or a cat, but you know what I mean? They get to experience it to a certain extent.
I don't know. I think it's really cringy when YouTubers bring their pets on the video.
That's what I just did. Thanks.
Very cringy.
It is kind of cringy when, like, what's his name? Twiangles, Dave McKeegan, when he does it. It's so cringy. It's like he's trying to use the dog to appeal to the audience.
That's what I did. Literally. I even said it. Oh, great dog. Yes. Bring it here, wifey.
Yeah.
The only thing that sucks about man, vacation time, where you going? They don't know dogs. That really sucked, man. It ruined a lot of vacations for my family. Somebody has to stay home, or we gotta call my mom to come over. But other than that, definitely find a way into your heart. I never had a dog growing. Now we had a dog for past 10 years. He's literally my best friend. The only thing that sucks is going on vacation and the dogs are not allowed, and always a huge problem a few times a year. What it is, right?
Yeah, we can just shove them in a kennel, can't you?
No, sometimes, when we go to the beach, rent Airbnb, a lot of them.
I get it.
Sorry, just woke up. Did Danny Faulkner stick his Slytherin snake tail into this final experiment?
Yes. He was sat next to a globe burger.
Sorry. Like I said, I just woke up. I'm gonna have to go through this later. A drag.
Well, at least it doesn't involve Witsit.
No, Mr. Ping Pong Golf Ball, sir.
At least it doesn't involve ping pong golf ball.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really, that little swamp weasel, friggin' Danny Faulkner, I knew it was only a matter of time, right? I'm going to have to take him to the woodshed again. But it ain't going to matter because he's only going to stay in his safe spaces, right? Look, yellow spine, swamp weasel, coward. I heard what he just said. You missed, I just popped into one spot on this video. You kind of missed the direction he was going in. Little smart ass comment he made. What did he say? Hold on a second.
Director to be her boots on the ground in Antarctica.
What kind of objections have you received from the flat earthers to this whole thing?
So a lot of.
Are you playing something in the background?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the last thing that he said that might have been objectionable that I missed.
No, it wasn't the last thing he said. It was one of the first things he said. That's what I'm trying to find.
If you've been wearing glasses.
He's a wanker, yeah. Oh, when Danny said, well, they don't ask me that.
Have gone on record saying what they would do or not do if the Earth turns out to no midnight sun in Antarctica. MC Toon said he would take down his channel.
And I will be the honest glober to say, well, if it contradicts the globe and matches flat Earth, one of the two ideas of flat.
It was when that bearded idiot that has flat Mars on his shirt, he was talking about people. Now people just come up and ask me about, the firmament and space and stuff. without any lead-in, something to that
And
effect.
how-
They
And
don't do
Danny
that to
comes
me.
in to the side, he
That's
says,
you.
"Well, they don't ask me that." Yeah, I'll stomp a muddle in your dumb ass,
You going to cover
little
it?
clown. You missed it. You went off on another tangent about it, which was correct, but you didn't deal with little Danny's little. They don't ask me that because they haven't done the research. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't dare ask me. I'll stomp a muddle dead in your ass, swamp rat.
Yeah, I didn't deal with it. You're right.
Fired up right out of bed. Go on. Sorry.
I'm just agreeing. I didn't. Now you actually reminded me of the bit in the video. No, I didn't respond to what Danny said in that moment. No,
It was right near the beginning, I think. Hold on a second.
I've tried to find it. I can't. But now I know exactly what you're talking about. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to go through it again. Sorry. I'll take care of it.
Jolly good.
I need my sleepies.
Yeah. The live show tomorrow will either be non-existent or very, very late.
Okay.
I'm going ice skating.
Oh, and ice skating. I just woke up. We got our first snowfall.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. He said last night, I watched it late last night. Weather guy, he's on there. Got some clouds rolling in here. It's going to be cold. Got some clouds rolling in here. Looks like there might be a dusting about 250 miles north. Because I don't think that's going to happen. Wake up, snow everywhere.
Can I tell you about this ice rink where we're going? Actually, just give me a second. Just give me a sec.
All right.
I was going to ask my wife to give me a picture of this, but she's disappeared to take the dog for a walk. Anyway, what was I going to say? We're going to Warwick Castle, and what they do in the... What was that? Is that you, Clover? Hold on a sec.
Somebody knocked over the TV. I can't ice skate. I tried ice skating once when I was 12. It's nothing like rollerblading.
I love ice skating. Love it.
I've never been ice skating.
Instant
I
chaos.
took to it like knock on a June bug. Go ahead, Nathan.
Just as soon as there's a dog introduced into your life, suddenly everything becomes chaotic. Anyway, the ice skating is going to take place at Warwick Castle, and what they do is they set it up in the moat. So imagine a giant trench. You know what a moat is, right?
Nice.
Well, they set up this really weird, uneven length scaffolding to raise a platform up to, at the deepest point, there's probably 20 foot to the bottom of the moat from this platform that they build up in the moat. So when you're on this ice skating rink, you're in a position in space, if you know what I mean, that doesn't really exist, that nobody gets a vantage point from ever. It's like above, even if the moat was filled, you'd still be 10 foot above where the water would be. So it's kind of positionally in a place that doesn't exist with a view of the castle that doesn't really exist until you're doing it. And
you're going to Narnia.
Well, I'm going to get you a picture when my wife comes back up. I'm going to get her to send me a picture, so you can see it.
Yeah,
It's
it looks like
awesome.
Narnia.
Yeah, just awesome.
That's
absolutely
so cool.
awesome.
Like ice skating with the medieval castle in the background. That's something Americans like us can't really fathom.
Well, I said that to him. Well, by coincidence, we did actually go there a week ago because my eldest daughter was singing. But that's not the point. We happened to walk past it because she was doing that event. We weren't ice skating then. But when we did, I said exactly what I've just said to you. Look, this doesn't actually exist, this position that we're in now. It doesn't. We're in no man's land, so to speak. They've made this artificially with all this scaffolding, and nobody ever stands here. We're unique in the fact that we're standing here now and looking back at the castle. But I said exactly that. I was like, imagine if you're in the States, the closest they come is if they go to some fort that they've built that's, you know, got a few towers on it and kind of it's synthetic to kind of create a magical effect around an ice rink. And you can imagine someone doing that. Whereas in this particular instance, it's like, no, this is a full-blown battle-scarred castle that's very, very one of the best preserved castles in the country. It's immaculate, and inside it's all decked out. You know, floorboards, curtains, tables.
Castle, and we don't care about the mice in the castle, right? We want to see a picture. Don't describe it to us. This is like somebody describing a movie to you. I mean, just shut up.
I'll get a
and
picture
throw
for
a
you.
damn picture up.
Okay.
Endless has a picture of it
I'll
on
get a picture.
Discord.
We'll snatch it and throw it into Skype.
Okay.
Shut up, Adam.
Adam's not even here, is he? Oh, he is.
Yeah, he
Hello,
is.
Adam. Are we doing the book this evening?
I will be, but I'm going to be here quite late, so it'll be probably 7 before I get in tonight. So I'm happy to do so once I get in, but I won't be until late.
7, is that my one?
Probably. Yeah, 8 is 2, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In 3 hours.
I can't post pictures in this chat, so I'll have to do it in Master B.
Yeah, that's what I said, Master B. Yeah. This isn't Skype that we're talking in. This is Google. Oh, it can't be just a regular image. Got to download it and everything. Friggin' Europeans. That ain't it. From Endless. That's not it. I can't get it. Wait a second. Okay, I got it. All right, you got this castle. You got a... Where's the moat at?
I don't know. I can't see it. I'll take out my own picture.
Call this a castle. I had a completely different idea when you said castle. So they built the platform up. I thought you were ice skating on the moat. I don't even see a moat. This is what I'm talking about. You're describing this. I had a completely different idea.
Always so combative, even when it just comes to ice skating rinks at a castle.
Well, I get upset at people trying to describe stuff. The movie thing is the worst, right? I mean,
No.
shut up.
I got to give you a hard time because if I don't, who else is?
There's
the
plenty
castle
that
looks
want
like
to
the
take
most
the Pepsi down.
stereotypical looking castle.
Oh my God! What?
Well, I said the castle looks like the most stereotypical looking castle, so I don't get how you don't think it looks like a castle.
Stereotypical. All I see is one fat pillar with a walkway between. Maybe it's the whole thing. Maybe another viewpoint would be better, but that's not a castle to me.
Yeah. It needs like a pointy roof, like little flags on the top, like Disney.
Oh, it needs to be big. It needs to have width.
It's huge if you look at other photos of it.
Is it?
Right, this is putting me off work now. Which castle are we on about?
Warwick.
Warwick. At Warwick, not Warwick.
Is it Warwick or Dionne Warwick or Dionne Warwick?
Warwick.
Is that by the university?
Yeah, Warwick University. Yeah.
That's the one who stomped the mud hole in Einstein, quantum mechanics. Remember?
Yes, that's Warwick University.
All right. Do you have any other pictures?
It's coming.
I get
It's
the ice
coming. My
skating
wife's back in. She's sending it to me now.
There's lots of
This is
pictures in the
pretty cool.
Discord.
From
Google.
this picture that we,
Yeah, you could just
who's
type in
Yak?
Warwick Castle into Google.
Thanks. From this picture right here, this is pretty cool. I'd have to admit, that's a nice ice skating rink. It's got some. I like it. But the castle, it leaves a lot to be desired. If you know what I mean, Mister. If you go to the United States or the USA, you go to a fort or something. Give me a break.
What? That's true.
It's not true.
Okay, you've got a steep history with castles, then, if you say so.
Well, I do because I've been to Europe. I know what castles look like and what to expect from an actual castle.
It's a pretty impressive ones as far as they go. It's quite good.
You forgot I lived in Europe.
Yeah, I don't
for
get it. I
5
mean,
years.
that's a pretty good looking castle. I don't understand.
What I'm looking at.
You can see
Yeah.
it. You've got the photo with a single tower. And they're looking down from the wall at the ice rink rather than up at the castle.
Yes. So this is weak.
Yeah, there's other
for
photos.
castle.
There's many other photos.
All right, let's get some other photos in here. But the ice skating rink is pretty cool. It's a bit synthetic, if you know what I mean, but okay.
Plus, I
So
mean, that castle's
critical.
like
I think
1,000
that
years old.
Nathan
That's
is.
pretty neat.
I think that Nathan is secretly hurting at what you're saying.
I mean, give me some dimensions of this castle. I mean, the castle in total, not the, buildings beside it that are not castles, the actual castle. I mean, if somebody said, let's go to this castle, it's going to cost $25, and I went here, I'd want my money back. If you follow from this viewpoint. Hello?
Just trying to find some
Perimeter of
pictures.
the walls
Just
is
trying to
about
find them.
140 yards by 80 by 90 yards wide. 140 by 90 yards.
All right. Okay, I'm going to look it up myself. Is it Warwick? W-A-R-I-C-K?
With a W in the middle. Warwick.
And it's Warwick. Right.
Anyway,
Now
it's not that big of an important thing. I really wish I hadn't boarded up, frankly, given the amount of dead air it's caused.
Okay, now that's a damn castle. I got you. All right, we must be getting some really strange view.
Yeah, it's the one that has the ice rink in it.
All right, let's see this one. Is the ice rink in the courtyard?
I haven't sent you anything yet, so I have no idea.
Yeah, but there's a picture of it in Master B. This is really nice, man. Oh, I think I see where it is. Okay, number one, that's a castle. It's pretty damn nice, man. Okay, I wouldn't ask for my money back. I think I see the walkway. I think I see. Well, hold on. Let me get a. Oh, I hate when they do that. I can orient myself to this picture from this picture. It's skills, man. Where's the damn
Okay,
tree?
right. Finally, I've managed to actually put a picture that I can put for the audience in Skype. You see that?
Hold on.
Let me know when you're there. Has been
Yeah, I'm
dragged
there.
down
Okay.
for 10 straight minutes.
Shut up. Go ahead.
That's it. So what you're looking at is the ice rink that is in the moat. So you can see the top of the castle, right? And you can see where there's a slope coming down. And then you can imagine that that continues down for another 20, 25 foot from where
Okay.
where it levels out with my eldest daughter pushing a penguin around.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
wasn't that
it's
big a
really
deal. I
nice.
just thought, there's me saying it. And I think, I'll just shout at my wife, can you just send me that picture, that really nice picture of Eleanor without anybody else in the frame? And then I get no response because she's buggered off with a dog that we don't normally have. Now here we are 10 minutes later. This isn't that important. Who cares? It's literally who cares.
Nah, this is nice, man. This is okay. So that's where you're going tomorrow?
Yes. So I'm going to be skating on that tomorrow. That's why there'll be no live show. Because it is.
Is that,
You can't ice skate.
Yeah, I can.
is that a thing that Eleanor's holding that helps kids ice skate without falling?
Yeah. Is
That's
that my
so
eldest or
cool.
my youngest? No, it is my eldest. The brunette.
Question: Is this is this a Zamboni she's riding?
Yeah, basically, sort of. It's a penguin Zamboni that doesn't do any Zamboni functions. But yes, absolutely.
I think it's meant for her to hold, and it's pretty rigid so she can feel secure while she's learning to skate. That's really cool. I wonder if that's like normal. Is that normal?
Well, it costs £5 to rent. That's pretty normal here.
That's so awesome.
I don't know how much it cost.
It's like a Zimmer frame, but for the ice.
It is. It's like an ice skating Zimmer frame. What you guys would call a walker.
Nice, real nice. So you're going during the day. How late does it stay open?
7, 8 o'clock, maybe even later. I don't know. Well into the darkness, because
that's when I would go.
Yeah, but it gets dark here about 3, so we'll be there at 2:30, and it'll be going dark while we're ice skating around. And by the time we leave,
Make
it'll
sure
be
you're
dark.
Who's taking pictures?
Probably my wife, I would expect. She's generally carrying a phone around. I don't tend to carry my phone around anyway.
Okay. All right.
Anyway,
this is actually legitimate. So okay.
Yeah, it's a full-on legit castle with like portcullis with chunks taken out of it, where you can imagine people's heads being smashed in and things of that nature, and little holes that they go, see that hole? Yeah, that's where they'd pour boiling oil onto the people below. And you go, wow. Yeah, castles are pretty gruesome. And it's got a fully functioning dungeon, which is also pretty terrifying.
I want to get back to the ice skating part. When did you learn to ice skate?
When I wanted to go out with girls. So yeah, you just go, where are women? Oh, check it out. Women are into ice skating. Then I'll be into ice skating.
It's slime bag.
No, it's not at all. You just, when you're looking to find love and relationships and women, that's what you do, right? You go and seek out where the women are.
Huh.
Now they got Tinder, and the divorce rate's presumably gone up. That's said I actually met my wife online.
That would be churches, grocery stores, and laundromats.
Well, all the spots you'd be fixing to rob.
No, that's where you meet girls. Every time I
Oh,
was
sorry. I
on,
thought you were planning a heist.
yeah, that too. Not two birds in one stone.
Two
So,
birds.
which one of those
Come
did you
on.
find your wife?
Me or Neil?
Church.
Neil.
Church.
Really?
Yeah, my wife, we met in church. She's a solid Christian girl from Guyana.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I met mine online. As much as I'm critical of the current generation using Tinder, that was what I did. But when I did it, it was pioneering as opposed to common.
Yeah, but yours was James Bond, right? Didn't she come flying up and do some sort of skid that impressed you?
That wasn't online, though, was it? Obviously. But yes, she did
No,
do
I
that.
know you met her. I know you didn't meet her on the skid, but you set it up and then she came sliding in perfectly, and that was it, right?
No, that was probably the third, maybe the second or third time that I'd met her. So I'd met her, and we'd gone out nearer her. So we'd both driven to a stately home that had a bar, and we sat out in the garden, and that was where we met. And then I took her back to her hometown, dropped her off, and then I think we met somewhere else. Then this was the third occasion, so she's actually meeting me at my home, if that makes sense. I wouldn't just immediately invite some random girl round to my home. No way. But in this instance, I'd met her a few times, but she was trying to find where I lived and had come following the sat nav. So I've gone down to the corner to see if I could spot her going past. And then she's clocked eyes on me while she's travelling at the normal road speed and just power slid into the driveway and then got out of the car and went, woohoo! As in to say, oh, I wasn't expecting that to happen. And me, I was like, I'm going to marry that girl. Yeah, she just yoinked the car around at full pace, having clocked me. And like I say, full on dirt flying off the back wheels, slid into the driveway on all four wheels. It was awesome.
Where did Adam find his wife at?
At the grocery store.
Swimming baths. Let's have a guesses on where Adam met his wife. Swimming baths? No, he's obviously doing the rounds. Telling people about you power sliding into the driveway when you came here. Told them that's why I married you. Just laughed. Had no comment.
No comment, just smiled.
Just laughed.
Well,
You're not
I had met
reckless. You
Sterling.
just drive quickly. That's not reckless. Freaking awesome is what it is.
I had met Sterling like when I was a teenager, like growing up in high school. I would go to these shows. They're kind of like heavy metal shows that were local, and right around that time is when they were constantly playing in town. So you could go somewhere and see them every weekend. And I met Sterling back then. He was like so much different back then because he was scrawny, but you could tell like he was wild. But like when he went to basic training, he got beefed up. Like they fed him 2 meals every mealtime, so they beefed him up. Changed his whole body type. Anyways, met him again at the bar in downtown. It was after this thing that we call Walt Ride, where a bunch of motorcycles or cars, you could be in a car and do the Walt Ride too, but it's a charity run, but it's a bar hop like all day. And you end at the end of the night, you end up at midnight special. So we were there at the end of the night, and they were giving out the prizes and stuff. Um, anyways, I saw Sterling there, and we went back to a camper that was camped out in downtown. And I played guitar for him like until the sun came up. We were talking, and he was getting me to play guitar and sing. Like I didn't even want to; it was so cold outside, but he was insistent. So
Oh,
that was it's a nice
very
little
sweet.
meetup.
Doesn't
Met him
sound
at the
like,
bar.
doesn't sound like a church.
No, it's the complete opposite.
All right, back to the ice skating. So we don't hear all the stories of everyone that's married here and where they found their wife at and stuff. Jeez.
Well, correction, Sterling is not my wife.
I understand. Yeah, it's the opposite of the former. Got it? All right. So ice skating in England. I mean, there really isn't that much ice in England, is there? You had to go to like synthetic places.
Yeah, they're all synthetic. There is no natural ice skating in England, full stop. It's all synthetic.
Yeah. Now, I myself learned to ice skate on by me onesie on lakes, right? I had a couple big lakes when I was growing up, real close to the house.
You thinking of water skiing?
Not water skiing, no. Lakes, they're not big lakes. They're not like the Great Lakes or lakes like that. They're oversized ponds, right? And back in the late 70s, it got really, really cold in the wintertime where I was at. So, and my mom had a pair of figure skates. I found them one day going through the attic.
Hold on, I'm going too quickly. Writing this down.
What?
I'm writing this down. Really
Better write this down.
cold in winter. Carry on.
Really cold in the wintertime. Well, as opposed to like Florida, it doesn't get really, really cold, except for a couple instances maybe. But up in Pennsylvania, home of the world champion Pittsburgh Steelers, up there, it got really friggin' cold. So I was just out of control. As a youngster, you just don't have any idea. So I slapped those skates on. It was like they were made for me. And I was doing it on these lakes. There was no like ice skating, parts set off. No one managed the lakes. You just got on. It was ice and you got on a lake and you just went. I'll tell you what, man, I could have fallen through that sumbitch. I still think about it and say how freaking crazy I was. When you're young, seems like nothing affects you. Like you can't get hurt. You know what I mean?
No, not really. I mean,
yeah, like when I jumped off the bluffs.
it's
jumped off the what?
We have lake managers here.
The bluffs here, there's huge, like high-rising bluffs. There's even a place called Bluff Way, and we have a huge lake here in it covers like 5 counties. It's Walker County Lake. Or Lewis Walker.
Whatever.
Yeah. Anyways.
Whatever.
Lewis Smith Lake. Sorry.
Oh God.
What? Yeah. It's huge.
It's a lake. Move on.
Yeah. I jumped off the bluffs. Like I fell for a straight 5 seconds. It was crazy.
Oh, you were cliff diving, huh?
I didn't dive, but yeah.
I had a good friend of mine growing up that got killed doing that.
Yeah, it was wild. I never did it again, but I did do it once, so I could say that I did. It was crazy. I was sore for like a week after that.
Now back to ice skating. I took that like a duck on a June bug, man. I could seriously skate, man. Tell you that much. I should have stuck with it and played hockey. That's what I should have done, but I didn't do that.
I'd like to try ice skating. I'm really good at roller skating.
Same thing.
Roller skating's for pansies. It's not the same thing.
Listen, it's not for pansies. You can have fun roller skating. Like I thought the same way growing up. Like when I was really young, I roller skated all the time. It was the thing to do in the town that I lived in. And I got older and I was like, that's lame. That's lame. And now that I'm older and I have kids, I would like for them to go have that kind of fun that I did roller skating when I was a kid. And then I'm like reminiscing and being nostalgic about it, thinking I would like to get on some skates and do it too. So you're just uh meanie.
You're just a meanie. Too funny. I bet you I could throw a pair of ice skates on right now and freaking skate around that rink right there and skate circles around that friggin' sunbathing at midnight penguin.
It'd be a sight to see.
And then I'd be in traction for the next 4 weeks. I'd probably throw my back out. There's no doubt about it. Damn, I miss those days. Fair enough. Looks like a lovely day tomorrow for you, Nathan. I'm jealous.
It's like, man, I'd really like to go throw my back out ice skating.
Yeah, that's exactly what would happen. With those figure skates, right? They weren't hockey skates, so the figure skates. So they had the, the front part of the skate. They had the ridges in them. So what I would do is I would get up on my toes and run across that lake as fast as I could, digging into the. I tell you what, man. I would get up to some serious miles per hour. I could run like the wind as a kid did, like the wind.
I don't know if you've heard of these things, but they're called hoverboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can ride one of those like nobody's business.
Yeah. Prove it.
What do you mean, prove it?
I want
You
to
want me
see
to
it.
video myself doing it?
Yes.
Well, I'm not doing that today. I'm recovering from being dog sick.
Yeah, you sound better.
Yeah, actually, Booger looks so much better. I'm so happy. And Char is so much better. She said that she's got a little bit of like stuffiness, but overall, she doesn't feel feverish. And yeah, I feel much better, but I think I'm going to recover a little slower than the kids.
How's the hips?
Much better. There's some residual, like, not really pain, but like residual pain in my left hip. But overall, it's a much better. That's why I'm not going to chance getting on a hoverboard right now. Sorry, buddy. You can take my word for it because my word is true, unless I've been lied to.
Yeah. That's what happens to me when I get sick, which happens very, very seldom in my life. That's what I do when my hips start to feel good. I think I'm getting over it.
My hips don't
It's
lie.
not a normal symptom.
Like some type of Alabama sickness, like Greenbow, Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Keep on, buddy. Keep on.
going to round out with that.
Gonna round out.
Huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.